Long had Midoriya Izuku wondered why his quirk was unlike both of his parents. He remembered the visit to the doctor as they tried to find what his quirk could be very clearly, as if it was only yesterday. "It is strange," the doctor muttered, massaging his beard. "Your boy has a quirk, but not one I could observe, but so far the tests have come up negative. No object attraction, flame breath, or a combination of the two." He didn't understand much back then, but he perked up when the doctor said quirk. The boy's gaze turned to his mother, who then asked. She looked scared, and the boy wondered why. "Did Izuku-in not inherit either or one of our quirks?" The doctor shook his head in negative. "That is yet to be seen, Midoriya-san, but likely. What is clear is that the likeliness is slim since it didn't manifest in the quirk test. Little Izuku may have a different quirk." "Different?" Izuku found himself asking. He felt his heart sped up and looked at the doctor's face. "Is that bad?" Izuku said, then looking at his mom as he grabbed her arm. "No, Izuku." The smile the doctor gave him shook away some of his fears before he turned to his mom. "It is not bad, but surprising. Do you like surprises?" His kid self nodded happily. "It is on the rare side. I've seen cases like this. The parents come back and asked why their child didn't inherit their quirk and was something new. Chances are young Izuku here will probably not have both of your quirk, but a combination from both you and husband's line." Ah, that was kinda sad for Izuku. To not get his mom's or father's quirks broke his heart. "Don't worry, Izuku-in." His mom's warm smile bare on him. "Whatever quirk you have, Mommy will always love you." Stifling a giggle, she then said, "Maybe you'll get a quirk like All Might's. Doesn't that sound good?" That didn't sound so bad now for the young Izuku, but he wanted his parents' quirk. Maybe he'll get a quirk like All Might. A quirk like All Might? Ooh, that meant he could save people from burning buildings by punching the fire away. Allow me to explain why that might be the case. Any word that the doctor said then had been over the head of young Izuku and forgotten. "Have you heard about the quirk singularity theory?" the doctor asked. Looking at his wrist and flexing it, the green-haired boy smiled sheepishly to himself. It took a lot of time before they figured it out. That involved a surprised Kaken who disappeared and him thinking he had made the blonde boy disappear. That was one wild day. Their teacher explained about career assessment test results, but then just threw the papers into the air. "You all just want to be heroes, don't you?" he said, giving them a blank stare, already expecting it would happen. His classmates cheered. "Don't lump me with these losers, sensei," Katsuki said, annoyed. Izuku gave his best friend a sharp look, to which the other teens snorted. He learned long ago that to curb Kaken's tendencies, he himself had to sharpen his fangs to stop his friend with his hot tendencies and impulses. "What you said, Deku? It's not like they'll make it to UA with their quirks. Only you and I aced the mock test," rebuked his friend. He didn't let up his hard stare and temporarily forgetting he was in their classroom. Kaken grumbled and didn't say anything more. "Ehehe," the teacher chuckled while wiping his face. "I heard you and Midoriya plan to enroll to UA." Izuku blushed at being called. His classmates chattered, probably about him since not one of them ever saw his quirk. He didn't want them to be his friends because of his quirk alone, just like Kaken. God knows he had seen it when they were young. The green-haired youth didn't want to be mean, but those two companions of his only hang out with him because of Katsuki's status of having a powerful quirk and status. No, he'll gain friends because of who he was, not because of what he has. It didn't make matters better since various reports of people with strange quirks all over Japan began disappearing. That started years ago, worsened months ago. He didn't know why because it wasn't solved yet, but it scared him because his emitter quirk was on the rare side just like those that were taken. How can he get to UA without his quirk? Yeah, how can Bakugo even hang out with him? He didn't let the whispers get to him then, he wasn't about to now. Damn right, Katsuka grinned. What is a hero without a sidekick? And you? The explosive blonde pointed at people who said those whispered to each other. Deku has better quirk than you people could ever dream of. Izuku shrunk as he felt more eyes to him, but they said nothing since the hothead reacted. Second to mine, of course. Of course, Kakin was going to say that he rolled his eyes. School went uneventful after that as he focused on writing the quirk of the earlier villain attack and the debut of the new hero, MT Lady. A hero with alteration-type quirk, specifically a gigantification quirk. "Oi, Deku," a rough voice called and saw it was only his best friend, Bakugo Katsuki. "Class is over. Stop muttering to yourself, damn nerd. Even sensei didn't bother to stop you knowing it's useless." Izuku smiled, abashedly being easily caught red-handed. What can he say? It's a habit now since he can think better when he speaks it loud. "Sorry, I was lost in thinking." His friend looked at his notebook uninterestingly and picking eye up. He constantly flipped through all of his notes. Just thinking of something's Kakin. Kakin's red eyes glared at him, and if he had laser vision, Izuku was pretty sure he'd be dead. "You better not be chickening out on UA. I won't have my sidekick walk out on me." Izuku immediately waved those concerns away. "Heh, no way, Kakin." The green-haired youth chuckled, rubbing his nape. It was their promise to get in UA since childhood. He wouldn't, or rather couldn't, break that promise. "No, I was thinking of my quirk. Maybe one of my relatives had something close to my quirk. I've searched it, and only 5 or 10 in had been registered with quirks similar to mine every 2 decades. Bakugo grunted and raised his eyebrows in return. "What about it? Rare or not, don't think your quirk would defeat my awesome quirk." Grabbing his bag, the green-haired teen followed his friend out of the room. "That's why you're my sidekick. You'll be the sidekick that gets me everywhere." The boy only shrugged and rolled his eyes good-naturedly while smiling. "Right. Wouldn't think of it 'cause sidekick?" Raising his eyebrows in mock ignorance, he then asked, "So, what was the score again?" Kakin gritted his teeth as explosions covered his arms. "Watch say, you damn nerd?" His explosive friend tried grabbing him, to probably ruffled his hair roughly, but Izuku stepped back and his vision then filled with red. He now looked at his friend holding nothing but air. "Why are you playing with yourself, Kakin?" He sniggered at his friend. "Tisich," Kakin sneered, his expression turning sour. "Whatever, Deku. Wanna hang out? We'll go to the arcade today." "I don't think I can. You know how I don't get along with those two." It's not that he hated those two, but believe him, he tried to, but he just doesn't click with them. "See you later, Kakin." Katsuki simply waved and turned right on the school exit while he turned left. It was a relatively quiet walk for Izuku. There were only a few people that he encountered in the quiet afternoon. Just as he was about to pass the tunnel, a watery sound came behind him that shook his nerves. A huge green slime came out of the sewer and was grinning menacingly down on him. "Wati!" Izuku gasped. He slowly walked backward, away from the slime who came from the sewer that was eyeing him. He doesn't like the look of that grinning face. A medium-sized cloak. The moment the slime moved forward, he scrambled backward. A villain! He thrusts his arms forward, creating a single large dark red vortex that went towards his assailant. A splattered sound hit the pavement as the hiss of his portal opened far away from him. His breath hitched, and his body became sluggish all of a sudden as his breath became heavier. Despite that, he immediately ran to retrieve his backpack. He and the slime villain silently stared at each other for a good while. The boy was thankful that there was no one in sight. Izuku breathed deeper and prepared to defend himself if the guy was to strike again. The villain giggled. "I knew I found a good one. Just stay still and it'll be over quickly." Crap. That last one took a lot of him than the intended energy he planned to use. The villain moved faster than he could anticipate this time and was prepared to open another when the sewer cover flew up. From it came a muscular man with 2 strands of rising hair that left Izuku speechless. He may not see it for he was covered in the shadows, but this shape, he recognized it. Of all places he'd seen the hero, he was here now? Impossible. The man's boots stomped heavily on the pavement and echoed in the tunnel. "It's all right now, young man." His hero thundered, the voice commanding yet filled with positivity. Izuku would recognize that voice quickly. It's the deep voice that gives inspiration to many, the voice that gives fear to the villains. He listened to him most of the time to know how the man between him and the villain sounds like. His body couldn't move or respond. All Might. Because I am here. Izuku crossed his arms in defense when the villain sent forth sludge whips, but All Might only stood still in his place. He could see from his view, the blonde superhero put one foot forward and his arm flexed back. Texas Smash! Screamed the number one hero. For the teen, it was one to see it on screen but another to witness it personally. The wind howled just from All Might's punch alone. The attack scattered the viscous body of the sludge and made it rain green villain slime on the other side of the tunnel. His Texas Smash was powerful that he found himself being pushed back despite standing behind All Might. No wonder he is the number one hero. No other hero's strength can compare to his. That reassuring smile melted away his fears and worries. Running to the hero, Izuku focused on the now falling green substance by raising his arms. Many small red vortexes opening appeared as the sludge then landed near All Might. He winced at the effort to do it, but he bears with it and continued. "Thank you, young man," stated the superhero, which had him blushing furiously as the blonde man started picking it up and putting it in a plastic container. All Might was talking to him. Him of all people. Someone pinch him. And no problem. Damn it, Izuku, get yourself together. He stopped his shaking, or rather did his best. It's all I can do from saving me. Approaching All Might, who was already done with the objective, Izuku shakily grabbing the notebook in his bag. Bowing deeply, the green-haired youth blushed with his notebook stretched out. "Will you please sign my notebook?" All Might simply laughed. "Of course, young man. No need to be shy." Izuku could hardly contain his shock and excitement. This is the best day ever. He squealed internally and can't wait to tell Kaken. When the hero still didn't return his 13th notebook, he looks up to see All Might looking deep in thought. The hero said, humming in thought. "Hey, this analysis isn't bad. Say, young man, are you planning to enter UA? A quirk like yours would be good at rescue." The grin he sported could have broken his jaw, but did so anyway by nodding fervently. "Yes, me and my best friend. We want to become a symbol of peace like you." The blonde number one hero laughed heartily. "That is a good dream. I'm curious, young man. Is there an analysis of me and my quirk?" His heart couldn't get more fluttered in his excitement. "All Might want to read my notebook." Yes, All Might. The teen grabbed his most recent analysis notebook with the All Might quirk updated. "Ha ha ha. This is truly impressive analysis. Most of it was just speculations and conclusions, most footage of All Might using his quirk and even going as far as to think of how much his limit in terms of weight, why his punch could cause the weather to change and such possible limits, and all he could think of. Asking permission, All Might photographed his analysis. He didn't care why. All that mattered to him now was his work impressed the hero. Signing his latest hero notebook, All Might then gave him a big grin as he then flexed his feet. "Well, it is nice meeting you, young man, but I need to get this guy to the police now. See you on the other side of the screen." Just like that, the hero was gone in a flash and wind blast as he only saw the blur of All Might's figure soaring on the sky. "I met All Might," he said slowly as if it was all a dream. "I met All Might. I met All Might." Slapping his cheeks, he screamed. This was the best day ever. He even showed him his analysis and signed his notebook. He walked home faster and gleefully skipping with every step. He didn't mind the weird looks people had given him. His phone beeped, and it was his mother texting him to buy some ingredients for the food at the house. Guess he'll have to take a detour. Izuku's excitement didn't wane one bit as he walked to the shopping district. All he could think of was meeting the greatest hero. Looking on the eastern part right where the shopping district was, smoke wafted up to the clouds. Another villain attack? Wondered the teen as he walked towards the place. Police cars surrounded the place and people gathered before the police barrier urging the people to go away. His eyes widened and was shocked to see the same slime that attacked him earlier rampaging in the fiery district. "Where's All Might?" he uttered. "Why are the heroes doing nothing?" someone asked. They can't. Physical abilities are nullified by the slime's body. The heroes that gathered won't be effective. They can't. Apparently, the villain caught a junior high schooler. It's been like that for a while. All around him people chatter about some poor schoolboy. Kamui Woods, Mount Lady, Death Arms, and Backdraft were unable to do anything. Nor would they be able to do anything. Their quirks were unsuitable for the situation. Mount Lady couldn't fight in an enclosed space. She could grab the villain, but the possibility of hurting the hostage was there. With all the fire everywhere and the viscosity of the sludge villain, it wouldn't be detained easily, more so with the hostage on the line by Kamui Woods. The wood would just be destroyed by fire and constant explosions. On the other hand, Death Arm's strength was useless against the sludge villain, and Backdraft was busy dousing the fire caused by explosions to assist. Wait, explosions? He peered into the monster where every blow he made caused an explosion. Please don't let it be. The teen wanted to close his eyes, but he could not. Not until he knew it so. His heart exploded with worry upon seeing the hostage of the sludge villain. A familiar mop of blonde hair. Far away as he may be, it was still discernible. The blonde hair stood out in the distance and looked to be thrashing in defiance. "Kakin," whispered Izuku, clenching his hand, without moving, raised his arms but stopped on the last second. Focusing on visual focal points, red swirls came from both sides of the rampaging villain. His gates moved towards the villain, slowly sucking its body and expelling it behind them. As he did this, he squinted his eyes and clenched his fists and feet, fighting against his slowly wavering body just to keep himself standing. "Warp Quirk? Where did it come from?" Mount Lady asked as her large form examined the environment. "We got a vigilante," was Death Arm's words. The people chattered, and the heroes looked around for the source, but he opted to ignore it in favor of controlling the warp gates. He didn't stop until only a small part of the villain remained. When his body threatened to fall down, the warp user bared the fatigue and continued with the people all around unaware. Only when he was done did he disperse the gates and allow himself to stagger forward a little whilst breathing deeply. "We'll deal with that later. Look, the sludge villain's body is decreasing," Backdraft said loudly to the wood quirk hero. "Kamui, get the boy." With the villain nearly incapacitated, the heroes temporarily forgot about him. With the help of Kamui, Woods forcefully yanked Katsuki out of the danger. The police then surrounded the villain with containers on the ready. "Move, move," the police ordered as they marched towards the containment van to gather more containers. They gave way to the police as they contained the large sum of the slime. Izuku could feel himself sweating so much as they constantly came to and fro. "I committed a crime. The law couldn't care if it was for saving a friend. If they ever find out it was him, they can accuse him of vigilantism." Excusing himself quickly before he falls, he made his exit. That alone took a lot out of him. Hopefully, those who knew would be quiet. He doesn't want to go to jail before achieving his dream. His chest became heavier with each step the more he wallowed on what he'd done. His mind roiled with possibilities of what would happen now. Would he still be able to go to UA? Heck, would he be even accepted now that this one act smeared his shiny record if they found out of his deed? Regardless of that, did he regret it? No, was the simple answer. But damn it, did it make what the weight he was currently feeling any easier or lesser? No, he can't bear the thought of earning the disappointing looks of his mom when she found out what he'd done. Still, clenching his fist and shaking his head, I would do it again. For his family, friends, he would do so without hesitation. He carefully, slowly walked away from the scene and hoped no one would notice him. Turning left to an alley, he was about to open a portal when a voice called. This made him turn and wince. "I'm sorry, I had no choice." On the back of his mind, a voice like Katsuki scoffed and said, "Way to go, keep the secret, nerd." He could just imagine his blonde friend's annoying and condescending smirk. young man, wait," called the person again, and he sighed in relief. It wasn't the police. The person calling him was a blond frail man wearing white tees and dark green cargo pants too large for his size. The boys breathed out in relief to see it was just a man. "Thank you for waiting, young man," the man said, catching his breath. The sickly person clutched his chest for a minute, and Izuku supported him, afraid that the man would fall from the deep breaths he did. "I wanted to talk to you about something. Would you walk with me?" The man coughed blood, which deeply concerned the teen. Izuku had no choice because the man looked like he could fall any second now and was in need of quick help in case it happens. Was he sick and needed to go to the hospital? "Do you need to go to the hospital, or?" "Yagi Tashinori." "Yagi-san." "Just call me Tashinori," the man said with a smile as his deep blue eyes looked like they are staring beyond Izuku's green eyes and into his very soul. Izuku reached out a hand. Yagi-san gladly shook it. "Midoriya Izuku, would you like me to accompany you to the hospital, Tashinori-san?" "That is nice, Midoriya-kun, but it's fine. I'm used to his—" That didn't reassure Izuku. For all he knew, the man might need help now, letting himself be directed by Yagi-san to a barren street. But he knew his way around it. It was one of the direct route home. "I wanted to say that I know what you did. I saw you moved your hands when the portals appeared." Terror gripped his heart when the man whispered this. He'd been discreet in his action. The teen made sure so himself. Is he gonna blackmail me for his silence? What does he want? "Please don't tell the cops. I only did it to save my friend," begged Izuku. It was the truth, no more, no less. Kaken needed saving. He would have said more had the man not raised his hand, stopping his tirade. Tashinori-san put an arm around his shoulder and gently prodded him to walk beside him. "I will not do that, Izuku. I came to you with a suggestion." Izuku wasn't wary enough of Yagi-san. He seemed friendly enough, but he was nervous what he was going to say. "But first a question. Why did you do that?" Suddenly his throat felt heavy and guilt settled in his chest. I couldn't let my friend suffer on the hands of the villain. The heroes were doing their best, but I was afraid for my friend. I was making warp gates before I knew it. Please don't tell anyone. I'll never do it again." "Relax," soothed the frail-looking man. "I won't. Your body moved on its own, didn't it?" The teen nodded blankly at the man's words, having no clue where he was going with the talk. Did you know what heroes had in common? He could only silently shake his head in negative. Where was Yagi-san going with this? They have stories about them from their school days. Most of their stories have one thing in common. Their bodies moved before they had a chance to think. Izuku remembered his childhood days. "Pick someone your own size." The younger faced a group of 3 older kids while defending a crying boy. "Stop it. That's not good." The older boy sneered. "What are you going to do about it? Tell your mama." Another scene came to him, back when Kaken was still wild as a fire. "What are you going to do about it, Deku?" A young Kaken grinning madly asked, a fist to the palm causing explosions. He was shaking, nervous even, but his friend was being mean, and no hero should be like that. A friend would help a friend see that they are wrong. Breathing deeply, fists closed tightly. A scream came from him as his hand hit Kaken's cheek while the other kids gasped in shock. "You can't do that. All Might is never that mean. He helps people." Various experiences of beatdowns from bullies came to the fore when Yagi-san said this. Nights his mother would admonish him for being beaten by those ruffians for doing what's right, for defending those being bullied. He always wanted to help people, to inspire them, just like All Might would as he laughed in the face of danger. He wanted to be just like his dad, who helped the little guys that the heroes missed. Tashinori-san grinned rather scarily with his skeletal body. "Did you regret what you did?" Izuku could only stammer. His mother, Katsuki, may scold him for being brash and facing danger. A little part of him called Kaken on his hypocrisy if he did so, for doing what he did, but he will do it again no matter what. It's like it's a part of him that he can't get rid of. "No," he replied, looking into the sky. Yagi-san's body hardened and gained muscles gradually. Leaning away from his support, The man left him wide-eyed in surprise. When Izuku looked up, he stammered. For the second time of the day, here before Izuku, a hopeful and ambitious student wanting to be a hero, was All Might in all his glory. Of course, Izuku did the only thing reasonable. He screamed and stumbled away from the number one hero. All Might, what are you doing here? He pointed to the hero with nervous fingers. I'm sorry. Please don't arrest me. Izuku bowed to the hero. Said the hero's laughter thundered in the solemn neighborhood. Don't worry, young Midoriya. I only wanted to see you. To offer you a... All Might coughed blood before he could finish his words as smoke covered the man and transforming him to the sickly frail man from before. To offer you a suggestion. The man said it very easily as if it didn't bother him that his identity was revealed to him. Not that he wasn't grateful. It was a big honor to know his all-time favorite hero's real identity, and for All Might to be nonchalant about it, then it meant he trusted him. What suggestion would All Might offer him? To turn him in? Oh God. Why aren't you arresting me? I did a crime. Relax, young Midoriya. As I said, I'm not here to turn you to the police. I'll gladly explain what happened earlier to clear your name after this. Just this once, though, heroism outside of the law is a punishable offense. The man's assuring gaze from his shadowed eyes. Young man, you are worthy of inheriting my power. Inherit your power? Did he really mean that? All throughout the internet, there are a lot of speculations as to what All Might's quirk is. Super strength, enhancement, but none ever mentioned it being inherited. How is it inherited? As far as I know, there hasn't been a case of it since the beginning. Impossible. Simply unheard of. Does All Might mean in a metaphorical way? Hey. If you would let me explain, then you would have your answer. Izuku blushed. He was muttering again. Sorry, it's a habit. Tabloids calls it super strength and boost. In interviews, I dodged the questions with a funny joke because the symbol of peace, All Might, had to be a natural-born hero. All Might, no, Izuku refused to call him that even in his mind when the hero trusted him with the information about his quirk like no one before has. But in truth, my quirk has been passed down to me like a sacred torch. Passed down? Was his only words. But that's... The number one hero's eyes were looking into his soul now as he replied, the power to pass down. That is the quirk I inherited. I was crowned one for all. All Might said this with the deepest reverence he'd seen the hero does in all his life as his fan. One person cultivates the power and passes it to another person who also cultivates it, then passes it on. It is the crystallization of power that spins together with the voices of those who need help with a courageous heart. Izuku was speechless. It was impossible for a quirk to be inherited that way. No study had shown such a thing before. Even if what All Might said was true, he was unworthy to receive such power. Izuku's knee gave up and he fell on the pavement rear first. Young man, are you okay? All Might made a motion to support him up, but the green-haired teen simply refused it. It's fine, it's my quirk. Making warp gates saps my strength faster than I'd like, Izuku admitted. Let's talk somewhere private. It took a lot longer to open a portal, but he did. He knew this place was quiet as seldom did people go in this old playground. Sorry about using my quirk in public. They sat on a rusted swing. Ah, it is fine. I'm sorry about earlier, Midoriya-kun. Your friend had to suffer from my mistake when the bottle fell from my pocket. All Might said, his fist tightening. I was not there to intervene because I cannot keep my form beyond 3 hours. No. Please don't apologize, All Might. Izuku would not let All Might apologize. He cannot deny that Kaken was put in great danger because of All Might, but bad luck happens to everyone, right? No, I must because of me he was nearly killed by the sludge villain. The teen sighed. Apology accepted. He just decided to shift the topic to a safer one. All Might, why can't you be a hero for more than 3 hours? I got injured from a villain I fought 5 years ago. Toshinori-san lifted his shirt and Izuku had to gasp at the wound on his left side, right where the lung would be. The old wound had a glaring purple in it with spider web cracks. He resisted the urge to touch it and with a wince of twisted fascination, wanted to know what villain was powerful enough to injure him like that. 5 years? He racked his mind of All Might's fight in those times. Was that when you fought the toxic chainsaw? You're well informed, but that punk couldn't defeat me. That was a fight not made public because I asked them to. Even with my weakness, I will always smile. To ease the fears of others and to trick my fears. The symbol of peace cannot be daunted by evil. It was scary how the number one eyes told all the story that he shivered just from the gaze alone. The eyes of the hero before him carried fear underneath all that smile. It made the All Might seemed more human in his eyes. It was a scary prospect to think a villain that could evenly fight and even injure All Might. He didn't know who it was, but he had no desire to know so. The fight destroyed half of my respiratory organ and my stomach. He swallowed hard and averted his gaze at All Might's hidden wound. It was hard to digest, because who knew that the symbol of peace was in such a state? I've become emaciated from repeated surgeries and aftereffects. That's why I can only work as a hero for 3 hours. Are you dying, All Might? Is that why you want to pass it down? He couldn't a world without All Might because he was foremost the one who decreased the crime rate in their country and stabilized it with his presence, giving the heroes the chance to crack down against villains, mafia, and criminals. The hero clenched his fist. No, but I am getting weaker. Soon, my body would not be able to transform and the world without a symbol of peace. If that happens, evil will reign. That is why I ask you, will you bear the crown of one for all? Will you accept my power? It was all going too fast for him that he couldn't help but tear up at the honor if being chosen worthy by All Might. Never did he imagine in 1,000 years to be asked this question. The chances of him being asked the question by his hero were 0, yet here he was experiencing it. Izuku's lips shivered in indecision. Why? Why him of all people? The man put a hand on his shoulder and he was sure the skeleton form of All Might was grinning. As I told you earlier, this quirk is passed from one person to another to those who are deemed worthy of the holder. I saw the fire in your eyes when you saved your friend. I saw a hero's soul. So, young Midoriya, will you accept one for all? This wasn't a dream, was it? Was everything now a really good dream wherein he was recognized by his idol? His eyes watered for being given such an honor. Yes. Izuku woke up on a Saturday day and jogged to Dagoba Municipal Beach Park of all places. He had no idea why All Might chose that place. It's not like he and Katsuki didn't use the place on their training many times before. He wondered because it was famous for being a junk pile, and he thought that someone as famous as All Might would choose a much better place than Dagoba Beach, where many garbage, trash, and everything was littered. While jogging on the way, he still couldn't stop thinking of yesterday and how surreal it was. Of all people, why did All Might choose him as the successor of One for All? It seemed like a story out of a shounen manga or a Super Sentai shows. There probably are better people than him. He was a nobody. Sure, warp quirks are rare as they get, but that's all he has. At the end of the day, that's all he had aside from good grades and dream to be a hero. Another matter was, how does one pass down a quirk? It was simply unheard of for Izuku. No quirk could ever be passed down aside from genetic relation. If the conspiracy theorists on the internet were to be believed, then there's also the legend of the quirk stealer from the 21st century. A boogeyman type of legend rumored to have the power to take people's quirks and was once known as the underground leader while the government was still reorganizing itself from the appearance of quirks by setting up quirk laws, quelling anti-quirk protests, and the controlling vigilantism. It was all debated whether this was true on some websites, but no evidence was shown, like a photo, a video, or a document about that could somehow prove the man was real. Eventually, he reached the beach, and just like every time he comes to the place, the trash was as high as it could get and was looking a little taller than when he'd been here last time. The stacks of junks blocked out the beautiful sunrise of clear weather. All Might was already there and was doing some stretches and motioned for him to do the same. They stretched silently for a while, but Izuku had to break the silence by asking a question that bugged him from the beginning. All Might, what are we doing here? Said Hiro's head turned to him beaming widely. Why, to train you, of course. As of now, your body is better than I thought it would be, but it is still not suited for one for all yet. One for all is the fullest physical ability of many people into one. An unprepared body cannot inherit it fully and the body will explode. Explode? He shivered just imagining his body exploding and his guts scattering everywhere from using an out-of-control one for all. That's how powerful the number one hero was. He could control this power with ease. No wonder he remained on top for many years when the top hero listings on the second and below kept shifting. So, we came here to train my body by picking trash? All Might gave a big thumbs up. Yes. Walking towards what looked like an old fridge, he then said, "But that's not all. After some research on the internet, I found out that this part of the beach park has been like this for years." "Yeah," Izuku replied. He and Kaken went here from time to train and practice their quirks since this junkyard was devoid of people. The teen had to say that he remembered when it was still clean and the trash was still piling up. The beach was beautiful then. They were 10 or was it 9? For some reason, because of the currents, objects drift here a lot. It doesn't help that people take advantage of this to hide their illegal dumping. Not many locals come here too. I suppose that would make sense that you chose this place to train. All Might took a rope somewhere on his body and tied it around the fridge. Not only that, Midoriya-kun. Heroes today are all about the showy stuff, but did you know being a hero originally meant doing community service? Before the emergence of Quirk, the heroes were the policemen, firemen, doctors, and nurses. You can't waver from the route. The blonde hero extended a hand and gave the rope to him with a big grin that caused him to swallow heavily in both fear and excitement. "Now shall we begin?" "Another day, another training," thought the youth as he plopped face down on the bed. It has been 10 months since he started the grueling training with All Might and slowly cleaning the beach-turned-junkyard. 1 month since the quirk was given to him from his diligence and effort. That was one day he won't be forgetting soon. Izuku screamed as he stood atop of the leftover junk that he piled, his body drenched and glistening with sweat. It had been hard day's work, but he did it. He'd never felt so happy that he wanted to jump in joy. His task was finished, and it honestly felt so good to achieve something to make his hero proud. Would his dad approve of him if he were still alive? With a tired wave of his hand, Izuku opened a portal below him and dropped into the sand. He was tired, but at the same time full of energy that he didn't know if he should move or stay still. After that chastising of overworking the body from All Might, it was a lesson he'd taken to heart. One cannot immediately surpass their limits. Rushing can be detrimental if taken to the extreme. Takes time and dedication. His dedication did indeed pay off when he felt happy upon completion of his task from months ago. "Kid, kid, kid." He smiled at the hero above him even as he was being gently slapped. "Wake up. No need to sleep now. It's time." "I did it, All Might." Shaky as his smile may be, he still beamed at his mentor. The number one hero beamed at him in return, causing his heart to flutter in joy. "Yes, you did it, you entertainer. You finished it earlier than I expected. You did it. Now, you have become a worthy vessel of inheriting my power." Toshinori-san held out a hand, which Izuku gladly took as then pulled up. Izuku closed his hand tightly and felt it shook with strength. "It feels like I'm cheating. Here I am being tutored by the number one hero." He felt his tears threatening to burst out, and All Might patting his back somehow made it go away. "Nonsense. Now it is time for the award ceremony, young Midoriya." All Might's eyes held pride in them as he said this. Any more joy would make his heart burst. The hero plucked a strand of his blonde hair. "Someone once told me that something you received because you are lucky and something that you are given because you are recognized are different in essence. Take that to heart." He was not gonna cry. He was not gonna cry. Take this power that you earned from your own effort. Izuku could barely hold his tears back from All Might's speech, but he held it back through sheer effort. "Eat this." The single statement alone caused him confusion than ever before in his life. All Might had told him many times that training in UA would be grueling and that he should be prepared for it. He was given 1 week rest after that day. They would now advance to learn the basics of One for All and with training his own quirk. His body was sore from their last day training this evening. All Might really pushed him hard tonight, and he knew it was because tomorrow is the big day. He didn't even bother changing his clothes as he fell asleep. "Izuku, you're going to be late for the entrance exam," called his mother. Looking at his phone, his eyes widened and quickly scrambled get up when he realized it was 30 minutes before 7. He was going to be late for the UA entrance exam. 10 minutes after, he was dressed in his uniform. He'd hardly believed it was the day. Funny how fast time flies. "Do you have your lunch?" A nod. "Extra clothes." A nod again and a couple of questions. He was ready to leave and smiled to his mother. "I'm off, Mom." "Show them what you got, Izuku," she cheered. Izuku was breathless upon seeing UA. It was much bigger than seen on TV. It felt so grand, just like their motto of Plus Ultra. This is where some of the most famous heroes of Japan graduated from. And now he would be going to this school, provided he passed the entrance test too, like his All Might. "Oi, Deku." On the entrance stood an impatient Katsuki calling him loudly. "Get your ass here and hurry up." His explosive best friend glowered at him. People looked at him and muttered rather loudly, "Isn't that Bakugo? The one from the sludge villain incident?" Small explosions came from his friend. He didn't like talking about that incident, and he understood why. Katsuki did not take being made hostage and seen so helpless on that incident lightly. Izuku jogged to his friend and fumbled when he tripped on something. He expected himself to hit the ground, but opened his eyes a second later and found himself floating. "Whoa! Are you all right? Sorry about using my quirk on you without permission," a soft voice said, and touched him and returning his balance and the feeling of weight. "But it'll be bad luck if you fell, right?" The girl had him blushing from her smile alone. The brown-haired girl with a round face smiled at him gently before patting him and ran. "Let's do our best. See ya." "I talked to a girl." His heart beat from the interaction alone. "Deku, get your head out of your ass. You didn't talk to her, nerd. So get that weird-ass smile off your face." Ignoring the last part, he grinned at his best friend and then said, "Sorry, Kakin." The warp user greeted. "I guess training last night took a lot out of me." "TCH, whatever, Deku. Don't make me wait next time. Come on." He tilted his head toward the grandiose building. Kakin's presence beside him was welcome for he eased Izuku's anxiety. He didn't expect less of UA to dish out at them. The test had to be something hard because their student enrollment rate was quite small. The first part was a written exam that he answered as best he can. Izuku believed that he aced most of it because it was topics they already had tackled in middle school. Though some were unfamiliar, thankfully his extra studying paid off. Soon after the exam, they were led to a large stadium-sized room, and once again, he and Kakin were arranged beside each other. "How did you do in the exam, Kakin?" Izuku asked before the orientation for the second part of the exam began. "Easy," he grunted. "Okay." He expected that as Katsuki's reply. "You?" He beamed. "I got most of it right." Or he was pretty sure that was the case. Izuku quieted when the lights turned on and the large monitor bore the symbol of UA. "For all of you listeners tuning in, welcome to my show today." Oh my gosh, he knew that voice. It's the voice hero present Mike. "Wow." Izuku rattled excitedly in his seat. "I listen to him every week on the radio. I'm so moved. All the teachers on UA are pros." His friend said something, but he didn't hear it, for all he can hear was the hero in the podium. "Everybody say, hey! Hey!" The green-haired teen stood and shouted. His voice echoed in the stadium, causing him to flush. He even heard Kakin muttering, "Nerd," under his breath. His head slowly glanced around and saw the thousands of heads staring back at him, which prompted him to quickly sit back down and wanted himself to shrink himself immediately. "Yeah, we got ourselves a lively crowd. I'll be presenting to you the rundown of this practical exam. Are you ready? Say yeah." The hero raised his fist into the air. Izuku pulled his best friend with him this time, ignoring his protest of, "What the fuck, Deku?" and screamed along with present Mike. Yeah, the weight of attention didn't affect him strongly this time with Kakin in tow, but he was sure there'd be hell to pay later. "Who? We are on fire." The long-haired blonde hero raised his arm, then continued his explaining. "As it says in the application requirements, you listeners will be conducting 10-minute mock combat after this." The pro voice hero then explained that in the practical exam, they will be divided into many groups and send battle centers A to G. Looking at his and his friends' cards, it seemed that they won't be fighting in the same place. "TCH, Katsuki grunted in displeasure. "I won't be there to beat your nerdy ass," he said, clearly disappointed. "Don't you dare lose, Deku. No one beats you but me," his explosive friend declared, glaring at him. Izuku returned the gesture with a firm nod. Present Mike then explained the rules and what enemy they will face. Mid-explanation, a teen in a clean light brown suit asked why, as opposed to the 4 that was in the printout given, the hero only explained 3 enemies. The teen turned, then pointed at them. "And you too!" He could see the glare even in the darkroom and the distance between them. "This is a highly professional hero training institution. This is no place to be playing around. Please take this seriously." "Whatcha say, you 4 eyes?" roared an angry Katsuki. "Why don't you say that directly to my face?" "Whoa, relax, kiddies. Besides, what fun is learning when we take it too seriously?" Moving on, you are indeed correct. There are 4 enemies in total, but the last one is more of an obstacle. It showed on the monitor having 0 points. There's one in every battle center. It goes crazy in a narrow space. It's not impossible to defeat, but there's no reason to defeat it either. I recommend you avoid it. Their bus arrived at the battle center B. Izuku's heart was pumping in both fear and excitement. Honestly, Izuku blamed Katsuki's for his current somewhat infectious blood-crazed excitement. The place didn't help that it was as big as a real city. Talk about too much, but Izuku guessed it followed their motto of plus ultra. Breathing deeply, he felt his chest lightened as he did so. Izuku saw the girl who helped him earlier. It looked like she was easing her worries just as he was. "I should thank her for earlier," the warp user muttered and walked in her direction. A hand clamped on his shoulder and he turned immediately to see it was the very formal guy from the orientation. "That girl appears to be trying to focus." The guy's sharp eye zeroed at him. He could feel his anger bubble inside his chest at the accusation implied. "Are you taking the exam to interfere with everyone else?" His soft and curious gaze morphed to a glare at the accusation. "No," he responded sharply. The teen could hear that he was the one being talked about now, but ignored it in favor of returning the look this guy was giving him. "Why would you assume so?" "It is no assumption. It is what I saw in you when you and your friend disrupted the orientation." Okay, he heavily breathes out. That was a reasonable thing, but still, to say that they disrupted the orientation earlier was going too far. Can't he be just too excited? You know, it's wrong to conclude without knowing the truth. "Okay, start." Present Mick's voice thundered even from atop the tower before the other could reply. "What are you waiting for? There is no real countdown in a real fight. Run, run. The die has been cast." Izuku was surprised to see others already running. A swift raising of his arms and a red warp gate appeared as he then ran through it and catching up with the other examinees. Looking at a top of a building, "I can do this." It was far, but he believed he can do this. All Might believed in him. His mother believed in him. It was within his range. Izuku kept his eyes on it and dropped into the ground and appeared atop of it, which made him breathe in relief. There! He saw still far away was the robots. Izuku jumped and conjured a warp gate, keeping the position in mind, screamed when he fell a few feet higher than he expected, but at the last minute clenched his fist. The power of one for all coursed swift in him along with the red lightning streaks all over him. He hoped this doesn't break his arm. Metal screeched from his strike as he landed roughly. Izuku clicked his tongue. The control was harder than in training. It was barely controllable. Another robot behind him thundered with its threads and dashed at him. Raising his arm, swirling red vortex covered his front as the robot's whirring then ended as it smashed to another robot. His fellow examinees all around were confronting the robots. Izuku opened a gate below the 2-pointers he defeated and dropped it above a 1- and 3-pointer robots while it was distracted by its opponents. He silently apologized for stealing the kills of the two. Breathing deeply as his quirks absorbed him, he fell from the sky on a different part of the mock city. More up ahead, the teen focused on making a warp and drowning out the wind. He screamed from the speed he fell, as the warp user opened a gate and once again landed higher by few feet than anticipated and rolled. He breathed deeply. Even with endurance training, it's still sapping me hard. Casting a warp gate below a dashing 3-pointer towards him, Izuku sent it crashing to the ground a few feet away from him. The teen ran and opened a portal, then moving his arm downwards, and the portal followed, swallowing the robot until it was halfway and closed it. The other half fell to the ground and the other falling behind him. Target acquired, a robot said behind him. A 1-pointer ran to him, and with a swipe of his hand a warp gate flew to his target and was swallowed only to fall seconds later. This time, with a closer target, he dashed to punch it when a laser pierced it. A blond boy with a naval belt equipment grinned at him. "Merci," he said before targeting another. Izuku, with 2 arms raised, a small warp intercepted the quirk and another hole opened facing upwards. His quirk was depleting him hard now, but he held it for a second longer before the teen stopped it. With his chance now, the 1-pointer ran to them. Izuku sent a vortex that swallowed it and making it crash behind him. Opening a gate, he came out a few meters away from the examinees in an intersection. More robots dashed towards them in all 3 directions. He screamed and ran towards a 2-pointer. "Come on, control it, like you usually do." The punch he did send it careening towards a building. The structure exploded in debris and smoke. He dropped to his knees to regain his lost breath. Grabbing an energy bar in his pocket, he quickly ate it and got back into the action. All across the battlefield, he appeared fast as he can as he warped here and there, punched robots here and there. It was a taxing effort, but he didn't want to waste all the months of training. The teen remembered it pushing him on his limit. It was his life for about 10 months. He wasn't going to waste it now. "I can do this." His body may be crying now, with 3 of his fingers very red and throbbing painfully. It was as All Might said, if he can't control it, it will destroy his body. Present Mike called out with only 5 minutes remaining when the ground trembled and everyone ran away. Looking up, he held his breath as a giant robot blocking the sun trudged slowly and powerfully. He could only cross his arm in defense as it punched the ground, causing tremendous quake and blue dust their way, to which he can only kneel there helplessly. When the dust cleared, everyone was already far away. The humanoid green 0-point robot blocked the wide road with its wide body and height taller than the buildings. Present Mike called this an obstacle? It was only he that was left, so the teen stood on weak knees and turned. Any more warping and he'd be down for long this time. A struggled cry made him look back, and there, the girl who talked to him earlier winced in pain whilst looking fearful at the giant mechanical menace. That kind of expression does not belong in her nice face. Struggling under the debris, the girl wouldn't escape the 0-pointer in time. The teen had no time to waste, opening a warp gate in front of her, willing it to go forward. It took a little more than the usual effort, but he did it and held his hand out and caught her. Izuku didn't look back as he ran fast as he can, even with his lungs burning and his body crying from its lack of sufficient energy. He knew he was running with adrenaline only, but it was better than nothing. "Is it still chasing us?" he asks the girl. The girl nodded. "That was bad, that was bad. If it continued to chase them, then that means it'll eventually catch on to the others, and that was the last thing he wanted." Swallowing heavily, Izuku looked at the girl. "I'll warp you to the entrance to where the others probably are." "What?" He expected her to say that. "What about you?" "I can't lead it to the others," he replies, avoiding her gaze. He wasn't even sure if it'll stop following the 2 of them if he teleported with her and lost it. He can't let the others be in potential danger. Better safe than sorry. Don't be scared. It may feel uncomfortable, but it's only for a second. I'm sorry about this. The warp user threw her upwards before she could reply, cutting her scream fast as lightning. Lessons of All Might for 2 weeks came to him. Okay, I can do this. His injured dominant arm kept crying, but he ignored it as he looked towards the sky. The transition from ground to air was quick as he dropped vertically from above the giant zero-point robot. Howls of the wind permeated in his ears. Focusing on the inherited quirk, it was harder with the wind and the protest from his already fatigued body. Imagining the smile of All Might even as he could only work for 3 hours served to energize his determination. Squeeze your buttocks and scream in your heart. Smash! Izuku, voice coarse, screamed. He closed his eyes, putting everything of one for all into this one strike. The resounding crack, screech, and thunder from the largest robot deafened him. A great crashing and groaning sound echoed even as the wind howled in his ears. His arms hurt like hell, thought the teen with stinging eyes as he dropped from the sky. Am I going to die? Certainly looked so. He was dropping from the sky faster than expected. The teen realized he quickly passed the top floor of a building. Turning and gritting his teeth, the green-haired youth opened a warp gate, but his grip on it was loose and he could feel it fizzle. And fizzle it did the next second when he summoned one. Concentrate. Focus on bending the space before you. A whirlpool to another world. It was no use, the pain was too much. I can slow my descent with wind pressure. Please don't break. Please don't break. Izuku pulled his remaining left arm, body tight only to grunt hard when something, especially his shoulder. His elbow stung but forced himself through it. All he could see was blue as the one who rescued him. They were still flying. Brace yourself, his rescuer ordered amidst the rumbling. He jostled when they hit the ground and he gritted his teeth. He was held tightly by whoever rescued him as they skidded for a good while. When they stopped, his speedy rescuer knelt huffing loudly as the person set him gently on the ground. Both of them said nothing as Izuku recovered his lost breath too. He wanted to cry, but he was too spent to even do that. His heart was beating miles per second. Are you all right? Your arm is very red. What were you doing risking yourself? He flinched from the volume. If it wasn't for the girl who told us of what you did, you would have fallen to your death. The green-haired teen recognized the voice. It was the teen who scolded him earlier. Izuku couldn't reply as he was too tired, but nevertheless respond. The zero-pointer was. He struggled to say words, and it was only through his sheer determination to chasing your direction. I couldn't let it. You guys. He faced the pavement and groaning to roll right as he clutched his right arm with gritted teeth. The teen was right. His arm looked bad and could imagine Kaken saying he looked like shit if he ever saw him. The girl. She's fine, the guy replied, propping him up. You should care for your safety more in this situation. The clattering steps of people went towards them as the chattering increased. Izuku couldn't hear what they were saying, and his vision was failing him as his breathing took precedence. Time's up, the voice hero screamed. He closed his eyes, his heart as hammering his chest badly. Izuku opted to close his eyes for a second. Thanks for sving me. Tenya Ida. The teen leaned against the teen Ida-san. He didn't think his quirk could leave him in this state. Yeah, Aizu. All Might grinned brightly at Izuku on the monitor. Yes, he could admit to himself that his training was still insufficient despite their 2-week training. Even if the young man managed to break his arm in the few times he used it, and that he may be beaten up, but that was better than he expected. He already got the most important part of using it. The use of the one for all may be shoddy, but it was better than nothing. His quirk was a problem too, but that was what he was for. He will be with Izuku every step of the way in his progress to master one for all. Murmurs of impressed heroes were obvious. Most of them to that explosive boy, or the shadow-wielding one. Looks like we got a promising batch this year. We even got a rare one this year, Midnight stated. A warp quirk, but the boy lacks control. A rare quirk indeed, the principal agreed. There were lots of moments he could have done better. Though he used his quirk best, he can by scouting the enemies from a building. I recall seeing the same quirk on the sludge villain incident a year ago. Toshinori flinched internally at Aizawa's obvious jab at him. He may have had, persuaded, his best friend with a favor to stop the investigation on the vigilantism and explaining Izuku's case. The number one hero may had explained how he decided to pass down one for all to Midoriya, and luckily Tsukachi only left him with a strict warning just this once. In the end, they silenced any issues regarding the vigilante to keep villains from knowing of the quirk. It was a request from police that all information on highly potential quirks, be it witnessed, seen on videos, image, uploaded on the internet, or those that made it to the news, had to be asked to be silenced to prevent further missing cases or until the cases were solved. Toshinori didn't want the news of a warp quirk individual getting out and searched by anybody wanting to use such power. Such a rare quirk would be coveted by many villains and be used as a means of escape. It was bad enough that there were many missing person cases across Japan that had police scrambling. The missing people were individuals with highly potential quirks. It was a deeply concerning issue. I see the potential in these kids, but they aren't rational enough, especially Bakugo Katsuki, Eraserhead stated as he turned his focus on Midoriya's explosive quirked friend. Far too excitable. Indeed, Toshinori agreed. But isn't that what UA is for? To guide them to be the heroes of tomorrow. When Izuku woke up, he found himself in a sterile white room. "I see you've wake up," a voice from his right said, made him turn, and he gazed at the short form of Recovery Girl smiling at him. "Your friend caused quite a ruckus worrying about that arm of yours. Luckily for you, it was just your right arm and fingers. Once you've rested up, I healed your injuries." "Your Recovery Girl," he began as he tried to sit upright, but took longer than he thought. "I must have fallen unconscious. A friend? Must be Kaken. What time is it now?" "It's already 6 in the evening, dear," the old woman said, got up and went for the door. "I'll let you in, but be quiet." The warning from the youthful hero left no chance for debate. "TCH?" He smiled at the familiar sneer. "I told you your conduct earlier was most unwelcome. That is why Recovery Girl kicked us out of her clinic. As a pro-hero, she deserves our utmost respect. And you dash," a second voice stated rather loudly, but lesser than Kaken's usual, but was silenced by the explosive blonde's reply of, "Shut up." He stared at the girl who entered first, having brown hair and a round face. She looked at him with gratefulness and relief. "Midoriya-kun, you're fine." The girl ran to him and bowed. "I'm Uraraka Akako. Thank you for saving me. I was shocked and worried when you teleported me to the entrance as the zero-pointer exploded." "Eh?" He chuckled weakly and face heated. "It's okay. You don't have dash." The glasses-wearing teen looked bothered, but then bowed. "I am sorry for my earlier conduct, Midoriya-san. I should not have accused you of anything. It was uncalled of me to do so. You clearly saw more than us, and I admit you are better than me." Ida was so polite and weird with his lively arm gestures. "It's fine, Ida-san." "Shut up for eyes." "Deku," his friend called as he entered, followed by Ida-san. Kaken's face said it all. Sharp eyes, cold look, and twitching lips. "Hi, Kaken." He waved at his friend lamely, as if that'll make him breaking his arm easily forgiven. "Deku," his blonde friend demanded. "How?" Okay, he was prepared for this. He and All Might both agreed that this reason would be acceptable. He flinched internally at the thought of lying to his best friend. "I didn't know either." He laughed awkwardly, holding his palm to placate a mad Katsuki. "I just discovered it and started training 10 months ago. The energy I used in my warping can be turned to strength. Though as you can see, without proper control, it's capable of destroying my body. Please accept it. Please accept it." It was the most reasonable one, seeing as one for all flowing in his body had the same hue as his portal. He hated lying, but it had to be done to keep All Might's secret. If he had a choice, he might have already spilled the truth to them immediately, but it was not his sole secret alone. Kaken's unblinking gaze before clicking his teeth, then looked away. And you thought you could use that to your advantage against me? Smirked his best friend as Izuku then sighed. No lame new strength is going to help you stop me from becoming number one, Deku. And I told you to not fuck up. No sidekick of mine is gonna break his bone and lose consciousness every time you beat a villain. Why would you even face the goddamn 0-point robot dumbass? One look from the elderly pro had him sneering towards another direction. Just get your ass up so that we can go home. Deku, Uraraka curiously asked. It's a nickname from when we were kids. Originally an insult meaning useless, but the teen shrugged unperturbed. I'm used to Kakin calling me that. Ida's expression became shocked and gestured wildly. How can you say that to your best friend Bakugo-san? Uraraka-san's life was in danger, and he was the only one heroic among us to save her life. So please refrain from calling him Deku. Shut up, for eyes. Izuku laughed at his new friend fighting to keep the blush form being obvious because of Uraraka's distance to him. It's okay, Ida-san. It's Kakin's unique affection. You guys can call me Izuku or Deku if you want to, said Kakin growled on his words as small explosives came from him. Uraraka hummed in thought beside him. I like Deku. Deku sounds the word. You can do it. Ida gasped. No, you deserve much more than me calling you that. Such a kind person as you will not be called demeaning as that. I shall call you by your real name. You can also call me by my name. Ida looked at the silent pro-hero with them and bowed again. Recovery girl. Thank you for healing Midoriya-kun. Is he allowed to go home now? Yes, his arm is fine now, replied the healing hero, shooing them out. Now off you go, children. It's already evening, and your parents may be worried about you. Izuku wobbled as he stood, and his vision turned hazy. Achiko caught him. Are you okay? Izuku could not answer as he blushed furiously at their closeness. I'm fine, he replied rather quickly. My quirk just exhausts me quickly. Nothing a rest would fix. Bakugo-kun, will you not help your friend? Ida's gestured at him. He can carry his ass home. I ain't carrying him. It's fine. I can handle myself. No, you can't. Let me help you. He blushed more when Uraraka leaned closer and whispered at him. Is he always like this? A nod was his silent reply. The green-haired warp user decided to clarify himself. Don't worry, it's just him being him. He would do it if we were alone. The girl smiled at his best friend as they walked, not before bowing and thanking the hero for her service. So, kinda like those tsundere in anime? Uraraka giggled. Izuku burst out laughing with her too. Katsuki didn't visibly react to her words. Let me assist as you, Midoriya-kun. Izuku stopped him from propping him from his other side. It's fine, Ida-kun. The blue-haired boy wanted to protest but reluctantly accepted his refusal. Thanks, guys, Izuku uttered as they walked in relative peace. Relative peace meaning Kakin being rude to his new friends and hurrying them. He just met Ida-kun, but he seemed like a nice person. Too formal and lively in his own way, but he could see Ida Tenya as a very sociable type of person. You didn't have to wait for me. I can make it home alone since our house is near. Uraraka Achiko, on the other hand, was a very happy person. One that you could possibly easily make laugh with a joke. The girl giggled. It's fine, Deku-kun. I wanted to thank you personally, and Ida wanted to wait for you too. Nonsense, Midoriya-kun. Ida reacted. The blue-haired teen walked on his right side while Katsuki took the lead. I had to see if you were okay and to apologize for my rude remarks earlier. The warp quirk teen with his free gestured for Ida-kun to stop. It's fine. I'm used to it being hurt. Kakin and I can't prevent that sometimes every time we practice. You mean you two have been training since you were young? Asked Uraraka. Damn right, his best friend replied. What better time to get started than childhood? Izuku's lips raised a little, remembering the times getting chewed by Mitsukio Basin for getting reckless even if it's just training. His mother, on the other hand, would be worried and be reproached by their recklessness. Hurry up, losers! Katsuki looked at him sharply from his shoulders. It was a long way to the station, but he wouldn't mind it with the people accompanying him now. Izuku is here. It's here. Izuku's mother ran to him frantically and breathless. In her hand, he was afraid of touching it as if it would burn him. Did he do well in the exam? He knew he had somewhere around 40 points. He hoped that was enough to pass. Thanks, Mom. He smiled at her, but on the inside the teen was scared. Really, really scared. Setting it on the table, Izuku activated it. I am here. All Might screaming near his face caused him to tumble back. As a projection. The number 1 hero turned serious the next second. Did he do not good enough? Oh God, will he fail? His mentor rambled, or at least unknowingly tried to, but a man behind the scenes had him get to the point quickly. You did splendidly in the written exam. The grin widened more. As for the practical test, Izuku held his breath when his idol paused. Many thoughts came to him as he wondered what he would say next. Is admirable too, even if barely passed. You have managed to earn 45 points. The teen clenched his fist, as I thought. My quirk drained me faster than I expected. Even guidance and training from All Might, his warp quirk was still too much. He knew from when his quirk first manifested that it would be hard no matter how rare it was. If that was all there to it. His head whipped up faster than he thought possible. I am an entertainer as well. Moving to the monitor, All Might grandiosely pointed at it. Uraraka-san? Wondered Izuku, and it looks like she was followed by Ida-kun. She shyly looked at Present Mike. Excuse me, Uraraka began. Midoriya Izuku, the person with curly hair and freckles. Why was she looking for him? I don't know how many points he earned, but I wanted to thank him for saving me. Would it be possible for me to give some of my points? Yes, Ida added. I would like to do that as well. He has shown me the truth about the entrance exams. Such a kind heart deserves much better, for he risked his own safety to save Uraraka-san and make sure the 0-pointer does not locate us. Ida bowed. A fluttering feeling swelled in his chest that made him reach out to his chest. He didn't do much to get their praise and points. It was too much for him. Even if you ask to, you cannot give him your points, the voice hero stated, patting Uraraka's hair. Don't worry, young listeners. The judges knew what they're doing. Midoriya would be fine. All Might turned back to him grinning. Not only did you save her, but you have also spurned young Ida and Uraraka to act. For you see, only in a hopeless situation does the heart of one reveals itself. The 0-point on the entrance exam is built for that purpose. The entrance exam was not only graded only on villain points, but also in rescue points. His heart hammering his chest. His new friend's words filled him with happiness that they would go that far for him when they barely knew him at all. A hero is a job that requires one to constantly put his life at risk. If we do not recognize that act, then how can UA call itself a hero school? The monitor behind him showed the score, filling his heart with joy. Ida Tenya, villain, 52. Rescue, 25. Uraraka Achiko, villain, 30. Rescue, 45. Midoriya Izuku, villain, 45. Rescue, 60. His eyes began to glisten with tears. He made it. They made it. Come now, Midoriya, to your hero academia. On the night after opening the results, All Might have contacted Izuku and telling him to go to Dagoba Beach. Toshinori-san stood on the shore with clothes bigger than him. Deku! Izuku flinched at Kaken's screaming on the phone. Even miles away from him and over the phone, his friend was loud as ever. Unlike Ida and Uraraka, who took the news with a smile and loud cheers. Not that he minded his blonde friend's very competitive manner when they've been beating each other since they were kids. You scored first place? How is that possible, you nerd? You just got lucky in the rescue point, Deku. Your weak-ass quirk only got you 45 villain points. He was just as surprised as Katsuki in him being in the first place. Izuku grinned at the other one's words. You're right. I didn't even know they had rescue points. I really got lucky at that. I'll talk to you later, Kakin. Something came up. Katsuki protested, but he hung up before his friend. Tashinori-san. Congrats on being accepted, Izuku-kun. His blonde mentor greeted, giving him a high five. Flattered as he was, he felt like he didn't do a good job at all. Nice job on the exam. You and your friend impressed the judges. Thank you, Izuku replied, bowing. He could feel his cheeks heat up on the praise. But I feel I didn't do a good job. I injured myself lots of times in the exam using one for all. I was hard-pressed controlling it, and it didn't help. My quirk also drained me faster too. His fist tightened. He had to choose which quirk to use at that time, his energy-draining quirk or potentially injuring one for all. Using them on them or both would have a big consequence in any battle. The thin form of the number 1 hero gave him one thumb up and a hearty laugh. It is to be expected. 2 weeks of training is not enough to master the legacy of one for all. Don't worry about your progress right now, it's to be expected. In time you'll be able to use warp and one for all at the same time. I also didn't tell the teachers of our connection. I figured you might think of it as cheating. Izuku, thankful for this gesture, smiled appreciatively. It was true. He wanted people to see him enter on his own rather than through the help of All Might. The teen didn't think the teachers at UA would take kindly to that if they knew. He was afraid they might think he got in thanks to All Might. Thanks, Tashinori-san. Following All Might, they sat on the beach. The waves crashed into the sand gently as the wind cooled his worries as neither one of them spoke. Right now, your body can't handle it, but the more you train, the more you'll be able to move the power freely. The only problem is your quirk. That warp of yours is useful and versatile in situations, but the trade is troublesome that even the endurance training helped little. Tell me, how does it work? Just in case I missed some details. Right, Izuku and Tashinori-san hadn't really discussed his quirk much while training. They did discuss it during the second day, and All Might put in some endurance and cardio exercise in his plan, but weren't able to focus on that as the physical training had to take priority to prepare his body to inherit one for all. What training they had was during the last month. It was a rush of 2 weeks of training one for all mostly and his self-training using his warp quirk and one for all. Putting just enough power to not break his arm and finding his current limits of what he can handle. Even with strengthening his body, his quirk still drains him fast. Though not as fast as before if he had to admit. How should Izuku start? Well, my quirk's energy drain really is dependent on portal sizes. The larger the size, the faster the drain, but controlling the size is a problem itself. Making an example, Izuku held out his hand and opened a gate half his size. The portal pulsed as it grew and shrunk chaotically like the waves that crash to the shore. He let go of it and felt the trickling of his energy stopped. The smaller the portal, the harder to control. I could make many portals like when we first met, but to emphasize this, he summoned many warp gates. All the summoned portals in varying size fluctuated. It gets harder to control and the energy consumption doubles. You remember when we first met. Continuous holding of a portal will drain me non-stop too. I can only teleport in 2 conditions. First is the limits of my vision or to the horizon of my vision. The longer the distance, the less accurate where it'll pop out. The teen would have made an example, but it was dark and his warp gate wouldn't be seen. I'm sure you've seen that in the exam. The thin blonde man nodded in affirmation. Second one is I must be familiar with the place I want to go to. He then chuckled. Not just places seen in pictures or maps. No, I mean I must be familiar with that place. That's why it is needed for me to familiarize the place personally. The things you mentioned were seen in the exam. All Might replied, looking deep in his thoughts. I've also seen you using that for offense as well. I seem to remember you not mentioning that. I didn't? Sorry. He replied, cheeks heated and turned red. That? He said, pausing for a minute, scratching his cheek. That's easier but still taxing, since I don't need conscious effort because those thrown warps, so to speak, opened in random places near me if without conscious effort and closes automatically. If I desire to, I can send them to places or positions I want, but it's a conscious effort. I can also use it to cut those midways in it if I close it abruptly. That was one aspect of his warp that he did not like. That is why he was always conscious if he ever transports someone using his warp gate. He wondered if All Might have an idea of how to improve his use of warping. I see. Simple enough conditions and useful when used properly. Now, I'm positive your time in UA would help you gain the control that you seek. Thanks, All Might, the green-haired teen replied, hugging his knees. I know I said this millions of times already, but I still can't believe of all the people out there, you chose me. Looking at his fist, he let the power flow and red electricity course through his arm. The power flowing through his arm felt like a torrent, and attempting to control it was like akin to making to go through a small tube. He unclenched his hand, releasing one for all, and with it the uncontrollable power. If you ever doubt yourself, young Midoriya, don't. All Might's thin hand gently held to his shoulder. I chose you because I saw within you the same fiery determination as my mentor had. One worthy inheriting a legacy of heroes. Come on, young man. I'm hungry and I know just the place. April rolled quickly for Izuku as he now tied his shoes, and while his mother kept fretting over him. I'll be off, Mom, he said. Izuku didn't know if he was practically shaking from excitement or fear. All Might had said UA would test their limits. Make or break them. Make or break, he would make it. After an uneventful trip to school, he found himself standing and admiring the huge door. 1A, the plaque says. There was a lot of noise behind, and Izuku hoped that Uraraka, Ida, and Kaken will be in his class. Bakugo-kun, put your foot down. Ida-kun admonishing an unaffected Kaken, who merely scoffed at his antics, while many eyes landed on them and maybe somehow forced to look away. No doubt because of Katsuki's aura. You are disrespecting our upperclassmen who came here before us. His childhood friend rolled his eyes. So? They're not using it now for eyes. Deku-kun, Uraraka called from behind, who waved at him. He smiled at her. Uraraka-san, he greeted as they entered together. He wanted to thank her for her thoughtfulness on giving some of her points, but deciding to tell her about it unless she said it first. I'm glad to see you here. I thought we'll never be classmates. Good morning, Midoriya-kun and Uraraka-san. The engine Quirk teen greeted while Kaken simply waved at him. Morning, Ida-kun, Kaken. Uraraka wasn't deterred by Katsuki's face and greeted him too. Good morning, Ida-kun, Kaken. Izuku chuckled, and as he expected, the explosive teen glared at the zero-gravity user. Watcha, said round face. Kaken's calm demeanor quickly shifting to that of annoyance. Quiet down. Izuku and Akiko swiftly turned at the man before them before taking their seat. Their teacher was a scruffy-looking, restless-looking, lithe, black-haired man wearing all black, nearly crumpled clothes and a scarf. He avoided looking at the cold eyes, gazing at them all sharply. Izuku prided himself knowing a lot of pro-heroes, but he didn't recognize the man before them, though he felt that he should have. You kids are not rational enough. It took 8 seconds before you were quiet, a second that may be important in a life or death situation. I'm Aizawa Shoyuta, and I'll be your homeroom teacher. We're going out onto the field. Aizawa-sensei ordered, holding out a blue tracksuit with an angular U on the upper torso and A on the lower torso, with the letter A's feet going all the way down and white on the sleeve trimmed by red. As far as the teen knew, all teachers in UA were pro-heroes. So, who is Aizawa Shota? He'd never seen a hero with that kind of get-up. After changing clothes, they were led to the wide field behind the school, and he was shocked that Aizawa-sensei already got to teaching on the first day of school. Quirk assessment test? He, along with his new classmates, chorusing in shock. Izuku gaped at the bluntness of their homeroom teacher. All Might was right. UA will be the greatest challenge they'll face. First day of school and we already have a test. What about the orientation? Uraraka bravely asked. If you're going to become a hero, you don't have time for such events. Aizawa-sensei replied, and voice remaining dry, not even showing them what he was thinking. UA's selling point is how unrestricted the school tradition are. Their raven-haired teacher looked over his shoulder, gave them a bland glance. That's also how the teacher runs their classes. Midoriya Izuku. He blushed, and his heart raced fast upon being called, and answered a quick yes, sir. You were first on the practical exam, right? All eyes turned on him, and someone even muttered he or she can't believe he got first. Kakin even muttered a bitter, lucky shot. How far was your softball throw? 50 meters, sir, Izuku replied immediately. Try doing it with your quirk. Aizawa-sensei had him stand in the middle of the circle. You can do whatever you want, but keep within the circle. Hurry up. Give it your all. Izuku took a deep breath, reaching for one for all. His right arm now heats up and crackled with the power of the legacy passed to him. Just like a microwave control the temperature, or a faucet keeping the water from flowing out. Eyeing the sky, a slow red swirling in front of him became big as he threw the ball. Smash! He screamed. He clutched his arm and hissed. The fingers and joints stung, something he could bear, painfully. It was okay, but damn if that didn't hurt his joint. 1 kilometer. His throw managed to reach that far using both quirks. Murmurs had him blushing, but luckily he was already won. Warp quirk. Guess the bag's already out of the bag. Not many people knew about his quirk. Aside from Idakuin and Uraraka, that was. I was with him in the entrance exam and went ahead of us faster than I thought. He remembered that voice. It was the blonde boy who had a naval laser and tried to steal his kill. Awesome. That looks fun. Fun? Izuku swallowed heavily at that tone. You have 3 years to become heroes. Would you still have that attitude? Aizawa-sensei grinned. First day of school, and already he could see that their homeroom teacher was one not for smiling or anything of that sort. All right, anyone who comes in last place will be judged to have no potential and as punishment. His gaze turned to each and every one of them. Will be expelled. Shit hit the fan as he and everyone reacted in shock. Expulsion on the first day of school. Said grin of the teacher widened. Welcome to UA Hero Course. Expulsion on the first day? Isn't this a bit unfair? Izuku moved closer to her. She had a point, but they were powerless against their teacher because just as their homeroom teacher stated earlier, UA gives their teacher control on classes they handle. Natural disasters, accidents, and villain. Japan, the world is filled with these calamities that may happen anywhere. The world is not fair. It is a hero's job to reverse these situations. In your years here, UA will keep pushing to your limits until your graduation and become the heroes preventing the calamities. Aizawa-sensei gave them a come hither sign. Plus ultra. Overcome it with all you've got. The first test was by pair. They were set up to race each other in a 50-meter dash. He was paired against Kakin, grinning at him with challenge and his eyes glinting with excitement. Izuku gladly returned the favor. On go, a gate appeared in front and came out on the other side. 2:30 seconds, the robot reported. The rest of the exercises were somehow a breeze except for the sidestep, because it was all close calls with his more physically stronger classmates or those with highly potential quirks. His control of one for all still left much to be desired. As they gathered again, he hoped the pro hero was bluffing. All of them suffered through the entrance exam. It would be bad if they had to fail now. First day of all things. Without prompt, their sensei showed their rankings. Holding his breath, the warp user went from the last to the top. Minoru Mineta ranked last. Izuku slowly went up and smiled on his spot. Fourth, he got 4th place. 2 places above was Kakin, which he turned smug about. Ida got 7th and Uraraka 10th. Izuku frowned. That means Mineta would be expelled. He waited with bated breath for the ultimatum the pro will now drop. Their cheers turned silent, and the only noise came from the last placer. As agreed earlier, he began. The silence was bearing down on them heavily. Izuku wanted to protest against Aizawa-sensei, but he was stuck in his place. The last placer will be expelled. Sir, just give Mineta-san a chance, muttered Izuku, but loud enough for those near him to hear. He did his best, just like all of us. Flinching at the glare, All Might's inheritor faced it still. Why should I take in someone who I judged has no potential? Midoriya Izuku. Because, swallowing heavily, Mineta did his best. He will improve and grow with the rest of us. Isn't it irrational to expel someone without knowing their potential yet, which we'll find out later? Aizawa didn't let up on his killer gaze. Izuku himself shrunk but still held on the mental onslaught of the homeroom teacher. I'm sorry, Aizawa-sensei, but I agree with Midoriya-kun. Mineta deserved a chance, and I thought it is unfair eliminating someone on their first day. His head turned fast to look at Ida with concern. He appreciated his support. But the engine quirk user is jeopardizing his position, maybe even his hero career. You guys, the teen in concern said. You don't have to. I see. His eyes scanned all of them slowly. Is that what you two think? He held his breath and gave the small teen a small yet assuring smile. Seconds tick and he didn't know what Aizawa-sensei would say. Then, in that case, you're right. Audible relief came from everyone but more evident from Mineta himself. I was lying about the expulsion earlier. Gaping in disbelief, Izuku couldn't believe it that their teacher deliberately lied to them, scared them to hell even. It was all a rational deception to draw out the upper limit of your quirk. Mineta hugged Izuku's feet and thanking him again and again. He opted to awkwardly pat Mineta's grapey head. He would be crying too if he was in Mineta's position. I thought you were going to be in trouble, Deku-kun. Uraraka with obvious relief said, wiping the sweat on her forehead. Aizawa-sensei sure is rough, huh? I never thought he was bluffing. Of course, he was lying, Yaoyorozu Momo said. It would have been obvious if you just thought it through. With that, we're done here. Aizawa-sensei dismissed them. With classes done, all four of them walked together to the station. The whole day of classes the next day went uneventful, and a surprisingly normal class from Present Mike who taught them English. The next day was the one he was looking forward to. I am. Izuku turned his head faster than he thought to see his mentor in his Silver Age suit, coming through the door like a normal person. His classmates awed at the sight of All Might. Who wouldn't write? He really is a teacher. The one with hardening quirk, Kirishima Ijiru, gushed. I teach basic hero training, All Might stated as everyone listened. It is a subject where you train in different ways and aspects of being a hero. You'll take most units of this subject. Let's get right into it. This is what we'll do today. Battle was the words written on the plaque that All Might held. Combat training. And to go with these are. The wall the hero pointed opened forward. Costumes based on your quirk registration and requests you sent in before school started. Costume, excitedly Izuku said. He and his mom worked hard on that, designing his hero costume. He can't wait to see it. After you change, gather in ground beta. Izuku felt like a hero just wearing his costume. Compared to his friend's costume, his was rather simple, especially Uraraka's. Her costume had him blushing with its tightness, though it really looked awesome and had a futuristic feel to it. Not only did Uraraka's costume had him blushing, but Momo's too had him looking away as well. Bakugu's had his personality written all over it with large grenade-style gauntlets, an explosive-like headband on the side of his head. Black tank top with red crossing over the chest. Ida had an ingenium look into his with the way his costume closely resembled that hero. The fuck is this shit, Deku? Kaken reacted. The blonde tapped his costume's ears. You look like a rabbit freak. I ain't gonna hire you as my sidekick if you wear that. No one will take you seriously with that shitty costume. You won't have to, he grinned. If I become the #1 hero. Uraraka giggled. I think it looks cool. Really down to earth and simple. What do you think, Ida-kun? Tich. The explosive blonde sneered at Uraraka. Of course, you would say that, round face. The blue-haired teen studied his form up and down, humming in thought. Yes, I agree. It looks good on you, Midoriya-kun. Your protruding horn reminds me of All Might's hair, and the colors suits you well. Izuku chuckled embarrassingly. It was based on All Might, at least only the figure design was. Not that the All Might attributes didn't serve any purpose. The grin-like shaped mouth serves as his oxygen filter against poison gas and such. The two All Might hair acted as transceivers that can pick up any signal within a certain radius, and the device can be adjusted through a device hidden in his gloves. Not only that, but it also had a sensitive hearing device capable of hearing the quietest sound it could pick up. Well, provided that the setting was quiet, because he didn't know if the device could filter the unnecessary noise. Aside from that, his utility belt was designed to carry all a hero would need. Mainly first aid kit, rescue kit, emergency kit, capture tape, heck, a grappling hook shot too if needed. Not to say it just carried that, when the belt also carried various items he'd need, like food for his energy needs, like his gloves too. Once they gathered, his mentor explained the rules. Beside their teacher was a box named as Heroes and Villains. It's time for combat training. Sir, Ida raised his hand. This is a battle center from the entrance exam. Will we be conducting urban battles again? No, he replied, holding out 2 fingers. We'll move 2 steps in advance. Most of the time villain attacks occur outside, but if you'll look at the consensus, the more dangerous villains appear indoors. Those intelligent villains hide in the shadows. You'll all be split into teams of 2 and be divided between heroes and villains in an indoor battle. Without basic training? The Froggy and neutral-faced Azuitsuyu inquired. This is a simulated real battle to understand the basics. So, learning through experience. That's UA for him. To go straight to the point in the first week of school. He listened to All Might again and think about it later before he could miss something important. The real key difference is that there is no robot to beat up this time. The pro-hero motion for them to be silent with is palm and grabbing a tiny notebook. The situation is that villains have a nuclear weapon somewhere in their hideout, and the hero's mission is to search for it. The heroes would need to capture the villain or get the weapon in the allotted time, while the villain will need to capture the heroes or protect the weapon the whole time. All Might held out 2 boxes. Teams will be decided by random draws. Teams are decided haphazardly? Ida-kun reacted. Yes, Ida-kun. All Might gave him a thumb up. Because not all the time heroes are partnered with someone they know. There are times in which heroes from other agencies team up on the spot to either stop a calamity, a villain, or just simply rescuing civilians. I see. Thank you for clarifying, sir. Ida responded, then bowing. Excuse my rudeness. It's fine. This wouldn't be teaching if no one asks after all. Let's draw. Izuku looked at his friends and found each of their and the class's excitement so infectious. One by one All Might drew. The deciding teams are, their teacher recounted. Team A, Midoriya and Achiko. Team B, Mizo and Todoroki. Team C, Mineta and Yaoyorozu. Team D, Bakugo and Ida. Team E, Ashido and Aoyama. Team F, Koda and Sato. Team G, Kaminari and Kyuka. Team H, Fumikage and Azui. Team I, Ojiro and Hagakure. Team J, Hanta and Kirishima. It was a relief for Izuku to be teamed up with Uraraka. Both of them knew each other's quirks after seeing one another in the mock battle and the test done by Aizawa-sensei. Plus, he knew hers when they first met. They also knew each other, so their coordination would be better than others. The ones he knew they should watch out for the most was Team B, C, D, and H. The quirks of those people simply overwhelming quirks. Though he shouldn't dismiss the others, he had no idea how creative they can get when using their quirks. Deku-kun, Uraraka cheered. It must be fate. Let's do our best. Please don't jump, Uraraka-san. He nodded awkwardly. The first team to fight will be, All Might said, drawing in the 2 boxes. Team A will be the villains. Team B the heroes. Once all their classmates went to monitor room, All Might guided them to a nondescript 5-story building. That draw surprised him. Their chosen enemy of all people was the worst one they could get. Team B, Mizo Shoji and Todoroki Shoto. They'll be at a great disadvantage with Mizo's dupli arms and Todoroki's ice. From what Izuku had seen during the test yesterday, Todoroki had good control of his ice. Not to mention the fire as stated by Aizawa-sensei. Even though they still hadn't seen it, but he was wary despite of that. Mizo Shoji, from what he had observed, can turn his hand to specific body parts, like when he transforms one of the blank arms to a mouth just to talk, and even made hands during the strength test, so it was a reasonable assumption that his dupli arms can make any part of the body. Young Midoriya and Uraraka, as the villains of this match, try to think in their mindset. This is not called a combat battle for nothing. Izuku tested his gear and flinched when All Might's voice hurt his ears. Okay, they work. Too well, in fact. You have 5 minutes to prepare before the hero team storms your hideout. Once inside, they went to check the location of the bomb first. The bomb had the likeness of a real bomb but made of papier-mâché. Even the structure is made of the same materials. There were some objects they could use to block the door or for something else. Deku-kun, what's the plan? Both of them huddled together. Todoroki-san is the more dangerous of the two. His quirk is very versatile and powerful. We don't even know the extent of the power of his quirk, stated Izuku. We can't take him on with melee. One touch from him and he can maybe freeze us. That's not including his fire that Aizawa-sensei said he had. The same can be said with his long-range ice attacks, that we are immobilized once we contact his ice. But going closer is the lesser of the two, since he can't risk going all out or he destroys a building in the middle of the city. Then there is Shoji, whose dupli arms can easily detect us, his partner stated, brows furrowed. He decided then that a serious face doesn't suit Uraraka Achiko. How do we counter Todoroki's ice? True, muttered Izuku. Shoji would act as the scout and Todoroki will be the striker. It would be a hard battle, but he smiled nervously at his partner. Let's familiarize ourselves with our quirks and costume abilities first. Izuku then explained the mechanics of his quirk. We can plan after that. Now let's start with indoor combat. Team A versus Team D. Start. Katsuki analyzed the two villains. Deku just returned from patrol and gave his partner a high five. Most likely to familiarize with the place for quick getaways. They couldn't see what those two hid behind the pillars from their view, but they hid something earlier. Maybe something crucial to fight against Half and Half's quirk. Round Face acted as the last defense by staying close to the bomb while the nerd stood in front, who tapped his ears. From the outside camera, the two entered, and a minute later the whole structure turned glittering white, surrounded by cool vapors, as Muty Arms then waited outside. He said something to Half and Half before going in. The blonde explosive teen smirked and then muttered, Deku ain't going down that easy, Half and Half. What makes you say that, dude? Pikachu asked. Bakugo only gestured at the monitor where Deku and his partner was. Hey, they aren't frozen by the ice. You're right, even the bomb's not frozen. How'd they do that? The pink one piped in. Is it because of his warp? Unlikely. He shifted his gaze at Todoroki, who slowly walked to the outside of the room. Uraraka, Create Quirk Girl, commented. Look at her hand. She formed the sigh to release her anti-gravity quirk, who swept her forehead. They floated themselves. I haven't even seen them float. They were only inches above the floor, he concluded. The nerd already hypothesized that Half and Half was capable of freezing things at a large amount. Deku said something and gestured, but they couldn't hear any of it. When Ice and Fire entered, Katsuki could read his visible shock through the stiff movement. Deku was such a drama queen by pointing at Half and Half by laughing like a stereotypical villain. Movements all exaggerated and expression manic as the ones he commonly sees. His eye twitched when that damn Deku grinned, posture straight, grinning wildly with arms to the side halfway up. The only thing missing would be explosions, and the nerd would be him. Did he copy me? Deku, you're so dead later. Half and Half from his foot unleashed ice swiftly towards Team A, which Deku countered by launching a portal to it and pointed his other arm to the ice user's left, whose attack then came out of a portal from the right side around the column and headed towards its maker. A quick portal opened in front of the ice user, but evaded by sliding forward, then ducking, just barely avoiding below the portal. Having no choice, the white-haired bastard quickly rolled and jumped left to avoid colliding with another warp. Bakugo smirked when another thin portal appeared to where he was jumping, and he twisted midair, barely avoiding and landing in a crouch. The bastard didn't even wait before turning to offense again with ice from his hand, only to jump back from a portal beneath. Deku can be a bitch in a tight space. He'd been at the receiving end of those things for as long as he can remember. From a simple revenge prank to their playing hero and villain all in their own private hero practice ground owned and unused by his uncle who then let them use it. Not a nice feeling, all your attacks coming back at you. Sweeping his arm aside, Deku briefly looked back at his partner. Deku's red gate appeared behind the ice user. Bakugu's eyes widened in shock when objects came out of the portal that hit ice and fire, roughly pushing him forward, sending him rolling. Another portal came out of thin air when the ice user landed in front of Deku. Round Face thrust her hand and into the portal that popped in front of her. Deku's style reminded him of that sci-fi game that uses warp too. He didn't give a damn to its title, but he was sure Deku did the same as that game mechanics. Their opponent jumped to the left as her hand came out of it and didn't give up by launching ice at them, but was blocked by another portal that came after half and half and would have hit him if the bastard didn't stop. The ice user was stunned, and his nerdy best friend ran with capture tape, but his enemy rolled right and jumped back. His All Might horn picked up something. It was unclear since they were in an enclosed space and with the target far away. Regroup. Meet me. Second floor. Todoroki was not only powerful and fast but also perceptive to avoid or even predict where his quirk would appear. As expected of a recommended student, the difference was too big. A portal below him. The ice user jumped and created an ice barrier, and his footsteps then faded. "He's fast," Uraraka commented. "We didn't capture him." The warp user breathed deeper as he ate one of his energy bars. "He knew they will be back." "Yeah," he replied, clutching his chest as the drain from his quirk made him nearly tired. He went all out with the portals, knowing that mobility was severely limited in this tight space, but their opponent was agile just as he was mobile. The white-haired ice user was trained well. As expected from a recommended student, his abilities are above average. He's regrouping with Shoji. Looking at the door and window, he didn't know how fast Todoroki would be back with Mezu Shoji this time. "We better leave. They'll be back and with the windows on our back." I'm not confident enough to say that Todoroki will not enter there. That had smaller chances since it would cause the destruction of the building and not to mention unheroic, but he'd rather not take that chance. Too much was unknown since they barely know anything from their classmates except for quirk and name. "Where?" his partner asked. "We go above." His portal swallowed them, and they appeared in a similar room but with a darker window view as the teen then fell to his knees. Looking around, there were a lot of objects strewn around which could cover from Todoroki's quirk. "We're in a rear room. The tight space will deter them hero team from an attack from behind." Hefting an office table, he blocked the door. Both of them got to work on stacking the objects they could find. "I'll confront them. If one of them got here, you know what to do." Uraraka replied with a firm nod, her expression determined. "I'll go back to the previous room to confront them." Once in their original room, Izuku sat cross-legged to regain his lost strength by eating what's left of his energy bars while listening intently for their footsteps, since no communication was picked up by his equipment. Good thing his suit was thick and ice-resistant enough because he could feel only a little chill. He did list that in his suit specifications that the material be resistant to most elements, meaning fire, ice, water, wind, and debris. Though judging from the company's scent, it offers only moderate protection to all aforementioned elements and may provide lesser endurance, unlike a suit that specializes against a certain thing. Still, that was enough for him. They're near. The sound of footsteps thumping in the reached the warp user's ears as then hid behind the pillar. "They took the bomb," Todoroki stated. "Can you locate them?" "Midoriya is here, behind the pillar by the window." Remembering his and Kaken's playing of heroes and villains when they were young. Breathing deeply, Izuku channeled his Kakenness and added a certain flair. Grinning at the two heroes, "Heroes!" he greeted with a grandeur sweep of his arm for dramatic flair. "You still didn't learn your lesson. I beat Mr. Freeze here before, and I'll gladly do it with both of you." Looking at the dupli arms user, Todoroki then said, "Find the bomb. I'll handle Midoriya." "Aren't you full of shit? Handle me?" Izuku retorted, sneering, faking a laugh. "Besides, you're too late. The bomb has been placed somewhere secured while my subordinate guards it. Keep underestimating her and you'll surely get it." He wouldn't admit this to anyone but Kaken, but he was enjoying acting like a piece of shit version of Kaken in his best friend's words. The Ice and Fire Quirk team gave his teammate a sharper look this time. "Go!" Shoji nodded and went his way. "Not on my watch. Die!" Sweeping his hand, a portal blocked Shoji's path, but his focus shifted to the ice heading straight towards him and opening a warp that swallowed the attack and appearing behind Todoroki. His opponent dodged, but with another wave of his arm, he entered the portal, appearing before the ice and dropping above him. Todoroki jumped back, launching ice at him. Concentrating on one for all, energy surged and crackled to his arms as he flicked his finger, sending the ice and Todoroki careening to the wall. "Damn, I didn't control that one well enough." Izuku gritted his teeth from his badly hurt, pulsing finger, but he didn't have all that training to be easily vulnerable to this level of pain. He wanted to scream when his finger hurt summoning that warp, but he didn't, and then pushed his hand into it and grabbing a cloth, then pulling it to him and hastily throwing the teen behind him. Before he could turn and kick Todoroki, his enemy was already up and attempted to grab him. Izuku stepped back, noticing the ice coating his hand. No way he wanted to be frozen. He blocked a sideways kick to his left side. Turning on his heels, he spun to the hero's right side and swept his feet, making him fall. Izuku continued as he grabbed the other's arm and shirt and throwing him forward to the ground. Izuku wouldn't let it be that easy. A gate appeared as he subsequently threw his enemy in it. Seconds later, from above, Todoroki dropped his grunt, echoing throughout the room. Capture tape ready in hand, the other teen quickly got back up, then backflipping away from him. Fast as he was, he's vulnerable on the ground, so Izuku made a warp where Todoroki stood and absorbing him. "Deku-kun, Shoji is now attempting to open the door." Uraraka's voice crackled in the communicator. Izuku's warp opened, revealing a confused teen which he kicked, but he leaped from that attempt and retaliated with his own grapple. His eyes widened when his attack was blocked by the ice user's right hand, but also froze his attacking foot. The stiffness made him fall out of balance. He recovered that easily. Drained as he was, Izuku quickly conjured a portal, swallowing him. He's got one chance on this one. He fell and abruptly seen the form of his multi-armed enemy pushing the door. Screaming, Izuku wrapped his arms around Mizo and pushed his head forward, banging his head on the door with a loud grunt. Seeing an opening, he pulled the other teen's real arms with one for all and pulled out his capture tape, quickly tying the hero's many arms. "You got me, Midoriya," the dupli-arm Quirk teen remarked once he recovered, though still slightly dazed. "Sorry about that, Mezukuin," smiled Izuku on the teen's back. "I hope you're not hurt." "It's fine, Midoriya. I'm not hurt," the masked teen replied. "This is combat training. It is foolish to expect not getting hurt sometimes. Don't panic. This'll be over in a sec." A second after they appeared in front of Uraraka, who nearly screamed when she didn't see Izuku. Izuku grunted from the effort and punched the ice away before giving himself a breathing room to eat another snack. He doesn't think he can hold off the ice user this time. Not when his hero suit was easily frozen and left his body shaking from the cold. His partner cheered upon seeing who he captured. "Way to go, Deku-kun." Getting off of their prisoner, he fell on his knees, but with gritted teeth and determination, he stood up, limped with his other foot still feeling stiff from being frozen. "Awesome. Your best friend's awesome, Kagu," Shitty Hair commented and was likely grinning. He held Todoroki to a standstill and sent him packing with that one flicking strike. Wonder how Todoroki'll beat them without his partner. That isn't the case. He's tiring out. Another round would be his last, and not to mention his foot is frozen. Too frozen since he didn't thaw it normally. His best friend walked around awkwardly with a frozen, limping foot. Endurance has always been his weakness. Deku always relies either on outlasting his opponents or finishing the fight before he tires. Even so, he's tiring, Creation Girl said. You can see it in his breathing and his posture. Possibly because Quirk is very demanding in its energy usage or he has low endurance. But judging from his form, it's likely the first one. Someone hummed in agreement. It does look that way. I didn't even notice it. Katsuki recognized the voice. It was the tailed one. Team A made dupli arms stood in front of his Deku before the bomb and the other stood behind the bomb and away from the camera. So, Deku is hosting a hostage situation. Hostage? Someone asked in wonder. All Might Sensei, is that allowed? The man laughed. Of course it is. They're villains. Anything goes for them. Well, their teacher cleared his throat then continued. As long as no one is hurt severely, then I won't stop the test. Murmurs of using that tactic reached his ears. Such despicable and villainy act but yet ingenious of Midoriya-kun of using a hostage against the hero team. Bakugo gritted his teeth caused by that boisterous semi-boy. I know right, Ida-chan. The frog replied neutrally. Who knew that somehow shy Midoriya could pull off being a villain? However, I think it is unlike him from what I've seen. Right? I didn't think Midori had it in him to be like that, the pink girl said. Looking at half and half, he was already won the other side of the door after checking the many doors. Piercing ice easily destroyed the barrier and which prompted Deku to cross his arms in and calmly the bastard came. Deku said something as both of them stood tense and ready for combat. The other one didn't speak and without ado, Deku behind the hostage started by flicking once again as the ice user hid behind an ice wall. Fuck, he hated the cameras. Useless piece of shit. The debris and ice vapor now obscured the view. Whatever was happening, only All Might know what was happening through the sounds. All they could discern was the room shook powerfully that it veiled the room more. What do you think is happening there? Asked the pink acid girl. Why didn't Midori use the hostage? I don't know, but the fight's pretty intense, the earjack girl replied. He did. The part where they stood before they fought. He glanced at the Creation Quirk teen whose analyzing eyes surveying the battle was as sharp as Deku's. Todoroki most likely didn't buy his bluff and confident he can take on Midoriya and Uraraka that he took the risk and froze the hostage. He wanted to go out there and clear the fucking veil and know what was happening already. It took forever for the veil to clear and the shaking to stop. The nerd was already down and most of his body frozen with Deku's arm hued a very painful looking red and purple. Half and half, his form slightly ragged, walked past the neck to toe frozen hostage and towards the bomb. Deku screamed at the top of his lungs as a smaller portal from behind Deku's enemy formed. Arms then round face's upper torso came out of it swiftly holding both arms of half and half. The ice user reacted but he now floated when his arms were tied. Silence. The room was deathly quiet. Bakugo smirked proudly, arms crossed at his nerdy green-haired best friend. Holy, Shitty Hair stuttered. Villain team wins. All Might screamed with vigor, only he had that broke the silence as their classmates gawked, cheered, and commented to each other. Izuku, with a slightly healed arm in a cast, walked towards the monitor room guided by the two robots after a lot of pleading to Recovery Girl to let him watch the others' match. Don't overexert yourself this time. He shivered at remembering the sharp look the old woman gave him. Nope, not gonna get her wrath. Various people greeted him upon his return. Young Midoriya, what are you doing here? All Might asked. He sheepishly smiled and rubbed the back of his neck, wary of seeing the other's eyes, not knowing what to feel with their wide-eyed and amazed expressions. I begged Recovery Girl to let me see the others fight. The number one hero boomed in laughter. As long as she agreed, then I'll let you stay. The teen nodded and felt relief at that. He thanked All Might before he turned to the monitor. Okay. Team I versus Team E. Please follow me to the site. So, he began sitting beside Ida's right and on his right was Kaken. What I'd miss? Midoriya, Kirishima said, clapping his shoulder from behind and nearly losing his balance. You guys were so manly out there. You two took down Todoroki. Izuku blushed at the praise and sent a smile at Uraraka's way, which she returned. Honestly, he was surprised just as the others were. It had been a gamble. He debated for a second if the two of them should fight or only him. If he lost against Todoroki, then that would have left Uraraka defenseless. Katsuki smirked at him. Never doubted you'd win, Deku. You and Todoroki were tied as the MVP of the match. He blinked, then blushed more at being declared MVP. If anything, in his opinion, it should be only the ice user. He did use what he to its fullest without causing much structural damage. Maybe Uraraka, since she was the one who did the capture. Yeah, but it was a hard win, he replied, feeling very sheepish. Todoroki-kun was good and recovered faster than I expected from our trap. Sending a bunch of warps and things at him didn't do anything. He was just too skilled. Sending piles of objects his way did not work. Even when he bombarded him with portals, the half-cold and hot user still fought amazingly. I think we only won because we surprised him with our last ambush. Capturing Todoroki was no easy feat. It took both of them all they had. Traps, quick warps to confuse him. Yeah, his partner agreed as she approached. Our plan was simple, really. Distract and confuse Todoroki using the objects, then trap him, but I guess he was too fast for us to catch. You should have seen Deku opening warp everywhere while Todoroki was avoiding it and gunning for the bomb. It was scary. Only you would say that, Deku. He could imagine Kaken rolling his eyes as he said this. You won, that's all that matters. Don't overthink. Perhaps Kaken was right. They did their best and won. And don't think I'll let pass what you did. Izuku chuckled. I needed the villain mindset. Remember heroes and villain. Midoriya-kun and Uraraka-kun. Bakugo-san is right. You have bested Todoroki and Mezu-kun by using your quirks and environment to its full advantage. That is the most worth noting. He guessed Ida had a point. Still, let it be a lesson for him to learn to prepare more. He'll write all the additional info of his classmates' quirks later and possibly put a counterplan against their quirks because he was sure there'd more combat training in the future. Looking at Todoroki, the half-white and red-haired teen with arms crossed on the other side of the room met his gaze. His classmate's expression gave nothing away as the two of them had a staring contest. Todoroki broke contact, returning his gaze towards the monitor. Deku, his explosive blonde friend stated. Which team do you think will win? Aoyama smiled and gave the opposing team a finger gun. Bon chance, heroes. Mademoiselle and moi will blow you away with our magnificence. From what I've seen, Ashido-san has enhanced strength along with her acid, which can also provide her with mobility like Todoroki with his ice. Aoyama Yuga has his naval laser fire in only one direction where his abdomen points, which is an advantage in an indoor setting. But, remembering Aoyama's laser yesterday and what he said, his laser has a usage limit before he stops it and then firing it again because firing nonstop causes him abdominal pain. In the hero team, Ojiro uses his tail very efficiently along with his martial arts skills, which put Ashido's strength in disadvantage if they can't distract him or doesn't know martial arts. Hagakure-san will be the tiebreaker if they don't find a way to find or neutralize her. Probably fill the floor with acid? Still, the hero team has the advantage due to her stealth quirk and Ojiro's skill, while the villain team has quirk advantages with Ashido's versatile quirk and Aoyama's benefiting from the setting, which is greatly advantageous. Damn, right again, Deku, Kaken replied. Looking around, the others gave him a weird look. Crap, he was mumbling again, was he? Invisible Girl will have to go if acids and laser want to win. Dude, Kirishima said slowly, that is awesome. I can't even think half of those the way you did. Anyway, Izuku responded, stuttering a little from the attention. I think it's close and would depend on each team's plan, but Ojiro and Hagakure have an advantage with her stealth. I see your point, Momo hummed. Hagakure-san's quirk is the perfect one for this, since they don't have any ways to detect her presence. Ajiru jumped and using his tail, he grappled at the street light and scouted the second floor from outside before letting go and entering the building. Meanwhile, Ashido said something to Aoyama and circling the whole room with acid. She's putting acid around their perimeter against Hagakure, Momo commented. After classes, Izuku's arms now healed by Recovery Girl headed to the entrance where the others were waiting. Bakugu, hands in his pocket and looking grouchy as usual, was weirdly ignored Uraraka, Ida, and Kirishima. Not that he minded Kirishima-kun there, but Izuku was surprised he was waiting with them. Sorry, I took so long, guys. Recovery Girl had to check if my arm is now okay. That's okay, man, Kirishima replied. It's important to check your arms first. Hey, Kaken, Uraraka said as they walked. Katsuki's glare did nothing to the carefree girl. Izuku glared at his childhood friend to stop his glowering. How long have you and Deku known each other? Ida, gesturing weirdly, followed. I would like to know as well. You two are really close. Kaken snorted, and even saw him rolling his eyes. Longer than I would like. Izuku laughed, as in turn received strange looks from the others. Nerd's been with me since we were kids. Followed me like a tail in all my adventures. Hey, so manly dude, the redhead teen stated. Just like earlier, I thought you had being Bakugu completely down. Not really, Kirishima-san, he chuckled, scratching his cheek. I guess I just know Kaken after years of preparing to be a hero. You know, sparring and all that. The redhead looked at him and Katsuki in awe. So manly. He put an arm around Izuku. The prediction of the fights earlier, did you two do that as part of your training too? His best friend snorted. As far as I know, Deku's been a nerd since we were young, analyzing and writing about heroes and villain quirks. You should see his notebooks. Notebooks? Kirishima asked. It's nothing. He quickly waved away the question and ignoring his burning cheeks. Kaken's just exaggerated, right? He glared for his friend to be silent but only seemed to smirk more. Oh, bite me, Deku, he replied sarcastically with a roll of his eyes. What you gonna do about it, huh? Eh? The gravity-quirked girl said awkwardly. Not to be bad, but… Uraraka continued, the faking a cough. How did you two become friends? And Kaken did take it as an offense as he glowered in her direction for a second. Don't mind Kaken, Izuku replied, chuckling weakly. He wanted to fight Todoroki, Fumikage, or him. He could tell. Someone he perceived that would challenge his skill. Izuku shared Katsuki's sentiment because their rivalry and competition were one of the things that they needed to be settled. He's just bitter he didn't fight someone strong. Kaminari and Kyuka didn't even stand a chance. Not that it meant their quirks were weak in power or usage, but Kaken simply steamrolled them with his viciousness and speed. Uraraka shrugged, and Ida looked like he wanted to say more but only nodded. But yeah, we've known each other for… Izuku muttered, recalling the first time they had met. About, since we were children. Her mom and mine are friends. He smiled at his own words. That was true. 10 years went by since he met the volatile kid he didn't know would become his best friend when they were young. He knew Kaken was not the most sociable person with his misunderstood hot-blooded tendencies. People avoided him and yet praised him at the same time. Kaken and I know each other very well. He may be an open and friendly person, but Kaken was all he knew all his life. Both of them knew each other inside and out and only knew the other most of their lives. He could say with confidence that his social skills were worse, if not, it's better than Kaken's by a tiny margin because of the fact that he was his only friend that stuck through the years. Find one of them and you'll find the other, he heard people say as if they were inseparable. Izuku could feel then glare his childhood friend was giving him. The little shit punched me when he saw me beating some kid back then. Kaken's mother thanking him back then when she knew he punched the explosive boy confused him. But as he grew, the greenhead understood little by little what he did at that moment. And I would do it again. Izuku meant it. Kaken wanted to be a hero, and that was not a hero-like trait. He did what he thought was right at that time. As you would too if you see me doing something shitty. Not manly Baku dude, the red-haired teen whistled. That long, huh? No wonder you act like him somehow, Midoriya. Act like him? In what way? That was the first he ever heard someone said that. Indeed, I agree with Kirishima-kun, Ida seconded. Their effect on each other is clear as day. Okay, what did they mean? He was lost. Uraraka stifled her giggling. That's right. I had to stop my laughter when you acted like a kaken as a villain. Okay, I'm not gonna deny that fully, but that was the best kaken expression I could do. That was just acting. Izuku, twiddling his thumbs, replied, We used to play heroes and villains. If I need courage, I would imagine how he would react, I guess. That's not weird, is it? It's more than acting, dude. Kirishima laughed, putting an arm around him. Sides, that was all you, dude. I know manly guts when I see one. Scratching his flushing cheeks, he replied, Thanks? So, he was unsure about this because for as long as he could remember, while he met many people, Katsuki was the only one that remained constant beside him. So, yeah, interaction wasn't really his strong suit. Do you guys want to go with us? We were, Kaken and I, he paused, clearing his throat, plan to eat at this new restaurant. Yeah, Kirishima replied, energetically pumping his fist. I'm in. I would love to, Midoriya-kun, the ever-formal Ida replied. Thank you for the invitation. Uraraka beamed at him. Ooh, you mean that new one besides the supermarket near the station? Izuku nodded at her question. The new restaurant, which blatantly called just as restaurant, was filled to the brim with people and quite lively, which was more than Izuku was used to. The bright lights reflected both the restaurants and the people's impatient state as they lined up at the entrance. This is gonna take forever, Bakugo growled. Izuku rolled his eyes. They were nearly there and estimated that 5 more minutes and they'll be seated. Relax, Kaken. Izuku rolled his eyes at his friend's impatience. There's no helping that side of him. Just give it 5 more minutes. Kirishima, who was unaffected by the explosive blonde's mood, said, slinging an arm around his neck. Chill, man. I'm sure their food is good if they have this many customers. 5 more minutes. A groused Katsuki glared at him. Okay, that took longer than Izuku expected. His patience was at its end too. But that's more than he could say for Kaken, who looked murderous and growling lowly. The people passing their seats walked faster as a result. Once they got their order, they sat and ate. Kirishima sat across Bakugo with Ida on his right and Uraraka in the edge of the seat. This is so good. Kirishima ate as if it's his last meal. He couldn't blame him because the food was delicious. The brown-haired girl on the other end moaned in delight. I know, right? How come we never thought of coming here? I'm not surprised, Izuku replied easily as he swallowed the meat. Just 2 days in UA and we're already busy with assignments. Not to mention first day physical test from Aizawa-sensei and the indoor combat test with All Might. Speaking of UA, Kirishima started, his eyes gleaming with curiosity. Why'd you guys entered the hero course? If you ask me, it's because I want to be an awesome hero like Crimson Riot. Izuku did see influences of the said hero in the redhead's hero suit. Not to mention their quirk. Both had hardening quirk. He had to whistle at his classmate. Crimson Riot was a hero, an old retired hero older than All Might, he thought. Uraraka fidgeted in her seat and poked her food. She mumbled something that went unheard in the chaos of sounds in the place. Nonsense, Ida said encouragingly, and apparent the blue-haired teen heard what she originally said. No dream is selfish. I'm sure it is good. Breathing deeply, she opened her eyes and looked at her food. I want to be a hero because I want to make money so that my parents can live comfortably. The way she said it looking down made Izuku frown. It's not that bad. It's opportunistic using the hero course, but it was a noble one. Besides, helping your parents was never a bad thing. In the 2 weeks and 2 days he known her, the teen could see she was nice and would help those anyone in need regardless if her goal as a hero is money. My parents own a construction company, but, she said looking down, it's barely earning as it needs to. That's why I want to be a hero, so that I can help them live a comfortable life just as they did to me. So that you could use your quirks for your construction company, Katsuki stated. Ain't that right, round face? Said girl nodded slowly. Kirishima, brushing his sleeve on his eyes, cried, That's so manly. It's not selfish at all. To help our parents is a noble goal as a hero. You guys. Their only female friend looked up slowly. Was it just him? Or did her eyes glisten? Really think so? Ida nodded fervently. It is. There is no nobler goal than to help our family. If we cannot help ourselves, our loved ones, then how can we help others in need? There is a saying that I believe in, you cannot give what you do not have. So, in order to have the ability to help others, we must first have the ability to help ourselves. Kirishima gave her a sharp grin. Bakugo rolled his eyes, which he understood as obviously round face. Izuku smiled at her and understood, or at least understood somehow the feeling. What child doesn't want to help their parents? It's a good goal as any. As for me, the engine Quirk teen said, putting a hand to his chest, I want to be like my brother Ingenium, a likable hero who does his best to follow the law, helps people even to the simplest of things. I set my sights on becoming a hero like Tensei Nizan. Izuku choked on his food. His brother is Ingenium? The Ingenium? And oh wonder, Ida's white modern knight-like armor costume resembled the hero. He thought it was like the case of Kirishima-kun and him who idolized a hero. With a prestigious hero family that came from during the emergence of quirks, it was no wonder Ida's speech pattern so formal like Todoroki. He must have been taught when he was young as part of the family business. He finished his water and breathes in relief. Bakugo, gentle as he can on his own unique way, tapped his back repeatedly. You okay, Deku-kun? Uraraka asked in concern. Just surprised Ida-kun came from a hero family, he responded after making sure no choking would happen again. Like Todoroki. No wonder you guys are that good. You were practically trained from birth. That would explain the way Ida talks, Uraraka pointed out, looking so thoughtful as she tapped her cheeks. All too formal. Kaken smirked. Explains the pompous attitude. Uraraka spluttered and nearly choked on her food. Izuku had to stifle his laugh because that was one of his first impressions on Ida when they met in the orientation. What? Ida stared at him incredulously. He cleared his throat, looking at Kaken and him. Anyways, he paused. I disagree. I may have been trained, but you have shown me that training means nothing if we don't have a hero's spirit. The blue-haired teen said, gesturing wildly with his arms. Even when eating, Ida was so formal, and his constant gesture didn't look out of place for him. What about you two? Why did you enroll in UA's hero course? The younger brother of Ingenium inquired, pointing his chopsticks their way. Me, well, the warp user stuttered. He didn't know how he should say it. The mood was so lively, and his reason would just be depressing. Well, my father was a police officer. He noted the way their expression turned somber, and Ida was about to apologize, but Izuku stopped him with a raise of his palm. It's okay. It was a long time ago. You didn't have to feel bad for asking. It was true, his heart didn't hurt like his mom was when talking about Midoriya Hisashi. Nevertheless, his heart felt a different hurt. A part of his heart that felt hollow. It hurt that he didn't get to meet his father since he was too young to remember him. He wanted to know what kind of man Hisashi personally, and not from the stories his mom tells. And from what his mom told about his father, he was a very passionate man, just like the fire he can breathe out. He was devoted to his job in keeping the peace and order of their still somehow chaotic Quirk-ruled world. All those years ago during Father's Day flashed to his mind. It was a small event where they were asked to bring their father to show and tell about their jobs. The kids whispered in hushed voices where his father was because his mom was the only female parent present. He wanted to be angry and scream at the other kids his father died helping people. That his father died fighting against villains but couldn't, or wouldn't, when all his anger dissolved with a single touch and smile from his mother. Even though he had a hero potential quirk and ability to breathe fire from his mouth, he chose to be a police. When asked why, he said, Police is a job noble as the heroes and maybe even nobler because they were one of the heroes before heroes themselves came to be. It's my job too to protect those oftentimes overlooked by heroes in their battle against villains. So, I want to be like him. A hero to protect those whoever needs it. The nerd dreamed of joining the police. Did Kakin have to mention that? He felt his cheeks burn. Not that he was ashamed, but it's his own secret. A secret dream he strives aside from being a future hero. Katsuki and his mouth. Izuku couldn't even reply as he calmed his flushed face. Izuku palmed himself and groaned in embarrassment. Dude. The excitable redhead grinned, offering him a fist which he returned rather awkwardly. That's so manly, bro. Midoriya-kun, I didn't know you have such a noble heart. Ida screamed. Oh God. The people are looking at us weirdly. Izuku's surrounded by weirdos, but possibly lovable and fun to hang out weirdos. Let us do our best to be heroes. Uraraka said, grinning at him too. That is awesome. I convinced him otherwise because his quirk would be wasted. I needed my sidekick on my way to becoming the top hero. Kakin called his quirk good transportation many times. He wanted to wipe that smug look off of Kakin's face. Can't have my taxi bail out on me after all. Ida shook his head in disappointment. Bakugo dash. Kakin, he interrupted Ida and scoffed. I know. A police ain't a pushover and waste 4 eyes. His friend barked before Ingenium's younger brother could finish his words. I meant his fucking quirk, genius. Sarcasm easily rolled off Katsuki's mouth. A quirk like Deku's can't be used if he joined the police force. If that's the case, Ida cleared his throat and bowed. I'm sorry for thinking wrongly about your words. As for me, I'm gonna be the one to beat the elites out of the podium. Bakugo declared, smirking and giving Ida a sharp, challenging eye. Declared was the wrong word. The green-haired teen thought surely as he looked at his childhood friend beside him. You know, it's true, a true Katsuki declaration when the blonde was not minding his very spicy food. I'll be the next #1 hero. Ever since they were little and saw All Might for the first time, they've taken a liking to him. The reassuring smile that gives people confidence even in times of danger. But seeing the true state of All Might and still he does his best was... He didn't know whether to call it inspiring or reckless. Maybe even both. Who was he to talk? He injured himself during the entrance exam. The redhead held out his fist in between the table for everyone to see. Oi! What you'd said about me, I'll beat you guys. And everyone. Bakugo pounded his fist with the other. Dream on, shitty hair, smirked Katsuki. You're not even an elite. Puffing her cheeks, the gravity-quirked girl's eye burned with determination. Following the gesture. You're on, guys. I'll race you all if I have to. Hold on, everyone. Ida putting his chopping hand on top of theirs. Do not forget about me. In the name of the Ida family, I will see you all on top. Izuku sighed and smiled at the group as they looked at him expectantly. No words were said between them. Their dinner didn't mellow after that and, in fact, rose in energy. Izuku blinked as reporters surrounded him like a hound. What subject does All Might teach? How does it feel to be taught by the #1 hero? Izuku found himself harder to answer the questions as more came his way. The media was unrelenting in their questions like piranhas catching a target. I'm just a support course student. He sighed in joy when the media immediately left him alone and muttering disappointed words. He didn't waste time and ran inside just in case they decided he was lying or maybe interesting enough to be interviewed. The green-haired warp user didn't look back as he entered the room and slammed his head to his desk groaning. Once the bell rang, their homeroom teacher entered on time. Good work on the combat class yesterday, Aizawa-sensei said right after the greeting as they just sat down. Izuku now knew where he had seen Aizawa-sensei now. He was the underground pro-hero Eraserhead. The hero was rarely ever seen on television and in the net. No wonder he had a hard time identifying their teacher. The teen had to dig deep in his notebook and internet to find the hero. I saw the videos and results. He's so upfront. Not a minute and we're already in business. Bakugo, Ida, and Yaoyorozu, good job. Izuku had never heard of a dry praise until now from their homeroom teacher. You beat your own enemies through strategy and teamwork. From behind, Kaken Izuku could imagine the grin the explosive blonde has right now from the justified praise he's having. Though work on your temper and cooperating skills more Bakugu. You argued heatedly with Ida for 5 minutes. 5 minutes which could cost your team's mission in real life. Midoriya, the green head flinched when his name was called. Nice job leading, but most of it was you. Teamwork is there but not enough. Next time, trust in your teammate more. She may have better ideas and could have helped capture Todoroki earlier. The teen couldn't look at his partner but did so anyways with a flimsy sheepish smile. Uraraka silently cheered him. Also, control your quirk better. You won't last long as a hero if you keep injuring yourself or get tired before saving anyone. It was true. Controlling warp was hard due to its nature, and his usage of one for all was still shoddy. Izuku clenched and released his fist. He had to work double time to catch up to his classmates. Double time for his double quirks. Straightening, he replied loudly, "Yes, sir." Their homeroom called then the ice user, Todoroki. Same as with Midoriya. You may had used your teammate's quirk to its potential but lack of teamwork in your part. And no, the fact that you don't know each other that well is not valid. Look at Azui and Fumikage. Azui was a very upfront yet rational kind of person. The same could be said for the wielder of Dark Shadow, but whereas their frog-quirked classmate was very sociable, Tokoyami Fumikage was somehow on the introverted side. The two seemed aloof and hard to get along at first, but they worked well together on the combat test. Next order of business, their direct teacher stated. I know it's a bit late, but I want you to... Holding his breath, Izuku prepared for the worst knowing the pro-hero. Decide on the class representatives. Izuku released his relief and glad to be wrong in what he thought was surely to be a pop quiz. Deciding who will be the class representative was a welcome surprise that made UA feel normal. Somehow. Silence. Their room achieved silence. He didn't know if he was glad or not. Class rep? Pick me, Kirishima roared. Kaminari followed. Me too. Pick me, sensei, Kaken screamed. All hell broke loose as IA descended to chaos in their scramble to have the venerated position of class representative, while Aizawa-sensei looked like he'd rather sleep through it all. Well, mostly everyone lost their cool. Todoroki, Koda, and Momo seemed to have a cool head on them. Izuku wanted to join, but he wasn't confident enough he'd do a good job. It's as their homeroom teacher stated, he needed to hone his leadership skills before he dreams to achieve such a position. Silence. Ida's screaming broke through the confusion. Being a leader is a serious job of being responsible for others. It is simply not a job for anyone who wants it, but a calling to those who have the trust of others. If we must use democracy to decide on a true leader, then we should hold an election to choose one. Izuku could feel Ida's passion as he stood straight and his hands raised vigorously. His words alone made him want to follow the other teen. Not only that, he had qualifications to be one since he was trained to be one and directly observing Ingenium. Izuku knew who he was going to nominate and vote. What? No, this was not I was expecting at all. Gaping, Izuku brushed his eyes to see if he was hallucinating and his mom accidentally put a hallucinogen in his food this morning. This was not he was thinking to happen at all. Midoriya Izuku, 4. Ida Tenya, 2. Yaoyorozu Momo, 2. He wanted the position but not that bad. His body shaking in the responsibility he doubted he could do. All his life it was just him and Kaken. No more, no less. Kaken he could handle and lead, it was his role in their weird dynamic. Katsuki would be the impulsive one that forces him to take action early if the opportunity was given, while he would try to control Kaken's impulsive tendencies. Leading others? That was too much. Izuku rattled as the three of them stood to the front and having all of 1A's eyes on them. We've got a tie, Kyoka said dryly. How do we settle this? How W about? He's stuttering. Stop stuttering, self. Imagining himself as Katsuki, he closed his eyes and slowly opened it. Rock, paper, scissors. It would be simple if you do that. Kaken smirked at him, arms crossed. He voted for me? Kaken. Izuku glared at him, but he was sure it looked pathetic with his quivering. Uraraka and Kirishima cheered him through their ways. Primarily the zero-gravity girl giving 2 thumbs up and the redhead whistling declaring how manly he was to have 4 votes. Ida fixed his glasses and nodded at his suggestion. What a great idea, Midoriya-kun. A simple yet strategic test between contenders. What say you, Yaoyorozu-kun? I just want this to be over with, he internally cried. He can't stand the way they were looking at him as he stood there and possibly fumbling like an idiot. How vexing. Sure. Yaoyorozu sighed, glancing at him in disappointment for a second and agreeing in return. I'd like that. So, out of 3. The tension was great as the 2 potential class representatives faced each other. Rock, paper, scissors. The class chorused. Ida won the first round, but, in the end, Yaoyorozu won. Their homeroom teacher got up from his sleeping bag as if nothing happened. It's decided that Midoriya and Yaoyorozu would be the class representatives. Class dismissed. Izuku glared at Katsuki on the other side of the table, with arms crossed, appeared smug at his suffering. Kaken knows I don't handle the public well. I should have voted for you instead. Let's see how you handle things, muttered Izuku as they ate lunch. Nah, don't worry, Midoriya. Izuku choked when his redhead friend roughly patted his back. I'm sure you'll do a good job of leading us. Those that voted for you probably seen that potential. All Might's successor highly doubted it. He didn't even know who voted for him aside from Katsuki. Yes, worry not, Midoriya-kun, Ida voiced with his gestures. I stand by my vote to you. I have seen potential leader character in you. Izuku guessed that's 1 vote down. He didn't know what Ida saw in him. He was not leader material, period. Did he even know he fumbles a lot in public speaking? Uraraka, with flushing cheeks, smiled at him. I voted for you too, Deku-kun. I know what Aizawa-sensei said, but it was your tactics that let us win yesterday. So, I have high hopes you can do it. The praise of his friends leaves him a mess and red as a tomato. He stops and looks at the cheers the others is giving him. Leading in battle is different outside of it. Bakugo growled and pulled him closer and their faces meet halfway. Stop being such a wuss. I know you can do better than that, Deku. Kaken's hand exploded and baring his gnashing teeth. Where is the skinny shit that had the fucking guts to punch me when he saw I was being shitty? Where is the heroic nerd that helped beat the good-for-nothing fuckers at school? I will not have my sidekick be a chicken shit. The green head swallowed hard and sharpened his eyes. Kaken's right. Looking deeper into his blonde friend's eyes, he saw the silent message his first friend was saying to him. This position was entrusted to him by people who believed in him. One of the things he liked about his childhood friend was that he was accepting of any opportunities given to him as long as he felt he deserved it. Izuku would do the same too. Ye dash. The klaxon of alarm gained his and everyone's attention. Attention. There has been a level 3 security breach. All students please evacuate outdoors immediately. The computerized voice repeated over and over. Immediately, they stood going towards the designated exit. Izuku pushed through the crowding people pushing each other. Looking around in the mess, he lost his friends in the chaos. Hey, watch your step. Stop it. Izuku breathes hard looking for his friends. I hope Uraraka is okay. The crowd's too tight. At this point, some students will get hurt. Kaken, Ida, Uraraka, Kirishima. The teen calls, but he knew his voice was drowned by the cries of others. Hurry up. Don't push me. Someone will get hurt soon. A shove to the left, push to the front, shoulders everywhere making it hard to breathe. For the love of God. Stop that shit. Izuku, best as he can, focused in the chaos and felt himself slip. Breathing deeply, his annoyance grew out of control. Shut up, screamed Izuku. His voice must have reached the end as they all watch him. His heart pounded 1,000,000 kilometers per second, noticing the looks he'd garnered. But he remembered Katsuki's words. Exit calmly, or do you want to hurt others? Do you want that? So, step back for a second. With one hand above to keep himself from falling, he extended his other arm. His energy levels massively dropped fast. The teen gritted his teeth. It was nothing he could not handle, but any longer then he would be kissing the floor soon enough. The air swished and rumbled slowly. A massive swirling dark red and black portal came between him and the others. Step through slowly. It'll exit to the open field. The one for all user size, when no protests came from his fellow students and only lots of murmurs. They all returned and sat down in their respective seats once the school deemed the trouble has ended. It was an easy thing to do now that the students weren't panicking. His effort helped maintain the order was noticed and blushed at the praise from their pro-hero teacher. It was indeed an effort because he was drained so much maintaining a gate that large just to let them out at the field on the back of the school. After that, they easily divided themselves according to year and course until their homeroom teacher came and told them to go back to their room before clarifying what happened. Settle down, their homeroom teacher ordered upon entering. The alarm was just the media illegally entering school area. Now that the matter's settled, I'd like you to elect other officers. Their gruff teacher didn't let them speak as he droned on. Be quick about it. We still have one last activity before the day ends. Ida raised his hand, but Aizawa-sensei looked at his friend dryly. No questions. Just elect your officers. After a lengthy debate of who would be assigned various positions, Izuku was glad that it was all over with now. He didn't think he would last any longer being in such a position. Thankfully, Momo was there to support him. Now that you have your assigned officers, Eraserhead drawled, class will be dismissed early, but tomorrow there'll be a different hero training class. So, research all about the rescue efforts and what is a hero's role in it. The next few days were pretty normal for Izuku and went like a routine. He got to know his classmates and their quirks in their training, oftentimes choosing partners randomly. If not random, then it'll be individual tests to see their skills. Though they have practical tests in varying manners, mostly it was all lecture subjects that even included the basics of the law. UA was different than what he was used to Aldera. It really lived up to its motto in educating them, especially Aizawa-sensei, who's a slave driver in teaching. Very determined to let the topic stick to them by having tests after each class. All of this was exhausting but worth it, especially the next week that got him excited that he wished time went fast. Monday came and he couldn't hold his joy. So here they were now on the bus heading to another part of UA for their basic hero training, specifically rescue training. Izuku, unfortunately, cannot wear his whole hero costume. All he had on was the utility belt and gloves. His hero uniform had to be redesigned by the support company after being damaged by Todoroki. The prototype was incomplete, they say, and would be given back after the sports festival. You know, I didn't think we will be doing rescue training when the media's still onto us, Kyuka commented. That may be a week ago, but I could still see them following me when they found out we were hero course students. He had to agree with Jairu. He had been hounded by the media for a day before being stopped by the principal, Vlad King, and their sensei. UA has good security. The journalists cannot enter where we are going. They have good security that will alert the school if intruders are detected. He looked at Ida curiously and wondered how he knew that, but thinking about it for a second, he chalked it up to be due to his brother. How would you know that? As Izuku expected, someone asked it. He didn't expect it to be Momo. My brother told me about it when he heard about our rescue training, he admitted reluctantly. Why would he know that? Siro asked with a curious glint in his eyes. Ida looked hesitant to reply, but he did nonetheless. My brother's ingenium. Except for the 4 of them who knew that fact, the others were surprised at this fact just like they were at the beginning. Well, most of them were shocked except for Todoroki and Momo, the latter which looked like she already figured it out. Cool. Why didn't you say so? Kaminari commented. How many ladies does he get to sign an autograph for a day? This was just the first of the questions among the many that Ida answered best and nicely as he can. His friend looked like he wanted to tell them to stop it but was otherwise too polite. "Stop it, guys, please. Ask him later after the training. There's the Midoriya from the press incident." "Yeah," Ashido agreed too easily with Kaminari. "You were so commanding. Kinda reminds me of Bakugo and Ida, but only nicer." That statement garnered a lot of laughs from the others except for Katsuki, who growled loudly. "What?" his friend said, reacting to the obvious jab at him. "I dare you to repeat that, Pinky." "Midoriya-chan," Azui called to his right. "I always speak my mind no matter what. I read somewhere that warp quirk is one of the rarest emitter types. Does your parents have warp-related quirks too?" It was true, a warp-type quirk was as rare. The teen searched, and in the government database only a few showed up in the last 2 centuries. Probably less than 100 or so. How much he can trust that is still a question, and maybe the government deemed some to be classified. After all, if One for All was a tightly guarded secret, then some quirks would be too to maybe avoid attention from the wrong people or too dangerous to be revealed. Also, he took any information about quirks before 60 years ago with a grain of salt because it would be dubious at best. That part of their history was not labeled as the Dark Age for nothing. It was a chaotic time before the formal emergence of heroes, finalization of quirk laws, and the drastically lessening of Japan's crime rate due to the iron-fisted cracking down of the government on the villains, mafia, and all illegal underground movement since the appearance of quirks. Basically, it was the time Japan had slowly healed itself from its wound from quirk abuse, extreme anti-quirk sentiment, and chaos from high crime rate. No, he shook his head. Izuku wished though that he had a bit of his mom and dad's power. Not that he didn't mind his unusual quirk, but something the combination of theirs would be like an heirloom from them. A way to remember his dad. "My mom can attract small things to her, and my dad, he, can breathe fire," Izuku said, smiling at the froggy teen. "Believe me, I've searched our family tree and all records. Not one of our ancestors has one ability related to a warp quirk." "Hey Midoriya," Kirishima said, and leaning forward to be seen. "I know you have a warp quirk, but how does that relate to super strength?" Izuku avoided the other's gaze, wiping a bit of sweat from his forehead. Crap, he knew that others would question him sooner or later. "It's an ability I just discovered a year ago. The energy from my warp can also be used to enhance my physical attributes." "How does that work?" said Tokoyami, seated beside Bakugo. The bird teen's eyes looked at him sharply and couldn't help but feel his soul is being looked into. He was more perceptive than Izuku realized. The two are completely unrelated. Izuku nonchalantly shrugged or did his best to have that easygoing feel, but he could be failing as his heart sped up. "I don't know yet. I still haven't explored the depths of my quirk." "Amazing," the redhead breathed. "I wish I have manly quirk like that. Yours is flashy and heroic, unlike mine," his classmate replied, hardening his skin. "I think your quirk is just okay," Izuku said, smiling awkwardly at the hardening quirk teen. "I think that quirks does not define a hero. It's how one uses with what they have that makes one." He cleared his throat and adding, "At least that's what I think." "That's our class representative for you," Ida said, loudly praising him. "One of the attributes of a hero is to support the people not only physically but in the heart too. I knew we chose correctly." "Aren't you overthinking it, Ida?" he wanted to say, but a second later retracted that thought because he'd be a hypocrite if he did. So, Izuku settled for chuckling at his friend's enthusiasm for him. "My quirk is both flashy and heroic," Aoyama said, posing dramatically, leaning forward, legs crossed and chin supported by his hand. "Made for a pro hero." Mina laughed. "Not great enough if it hurts later on." The eccentric blonde's mood fell faster than a rock from the sky. "Unlike mine, which is graceful and useful." "Fucking losers." Izuku could imagine Katsuki rolling his eyes from the contempt in his voice alone. "I'll blow all your quirks away when I become the new #1 hero." Kaminari pointed at Kaken, smirking. "Not with that attitude, you're not Bakugo. In fact, people will be scared when you save them." What you'd say, dumbass, Katsuki roared. Say that to my face one more time. So vulgar. He heard Momo say, her derision obvious in her inflection. I wonder how a gentle person like Midoriya can stand to hang out with him. Uraraka giggled in response. I think it's cute. You know, kind of like those good cop, bad cop they do on TV series. Slowly, Izuku shook his head. They don't understand Kaken. He needs to explode. It's part of who he is. Just as one cannot stop a storm and raging sea, Kaken cannot be stopped from being explosive from time to time. Lightly, he smiled. Besides, Kaken makes a boring day brighter. Izuku gasped at the scenery before them. Welcome one students. It's Space Hero 13. Izuku immediately recognized the white thick and round spacesuit worn by the hero, for it was not worn by any of the top heroes other than the one before them. The hero welcomed them with open arms. Izuku couldn't see her expression, but judging by her voice she was excited. I've been waiting for you guys. It's the Space Hero 13. The teen could barely keep himself still from his excitement. The gentleman hero who saved many people from disasters. He loved the hero, though not as much as All Might himself. His efforts in averting disaster really helped in decreasing the number of casualties. He loved and admired All Might, but it was hard to look and relate at his idol when they had different quirks. He found a kindred spirit in 13, for he knew his quirk was suited for rescuing. I love 13. Uraraka cheered alongside him. He felt giddy that someone shared his enthusiasm, much more so when it was his friend. It was refreshing tidbit to know that Uraraka loved 13. Come, let's not waste time and go inside. It's like Universal Studios Japan, Kirishima gushed. The large dome standing before them looked normal outside, but the redhead was right on his comment. It was like a movie studio complete for filming any scene. Heck, they could film a whole movie without going anywhere. If they ever have a project that required making a film, this was definitely the first place he'd suggest. Shipwreck, landslide, fire, windstorm mountain, the rescue hero said proudly with arms wide open. I personally made this place to train with different types of disasters. USJ was bigger than any stadium than the one used during the sports festival. He thought that it was twice as big as it. There on the right, a smaller blue dome, probably the windstorm. A small lake with a water slide and boat in the middle followed it. Next to it was a smaller dome painted with fire atop and followed by the foam mountain and cliff. The last one on their left was a landslide and crashed buildings. I call this the Unforeseen Simulation Joint, or USJ for short. This is really USJ. He deadpanned at the pro-hero's joke. Where is All Might? Aizawa-sensei interrupted, looking at his watch. He was supposed to meet us here. 13 said something in return, and he couldn't hear it, but he got the message when the rescue hero held out 3 fingers. Their homeroom teacher sighed and then said, It can't be helped. Shall we begin? Eraserhead's excite was palpable as Hagakure's form as he leaned on the wall. Before we start, I have something to say. The space hero raised a hand. As all of you know, my quirk is Black Hole. I can suck everything and turn it to dust. Izuku nodded energetically. He'd seen the hero use his quirk during rescue missions wherein she used Black Hole to suck debris, environmental hazards like fire, and such, clearing the way for the others. You've been able to save a lot from disasters using your quirk. Many researchers, both national and international, expressed their interest if a quirk like yours could be replicated in the form of automated defense. Yes, the Black Hole quirk hero replied somberly. It's true I've saved many from disasters using Black Hole, but it is also a power that can easily hurt others. His and the excitement of the others dropped at the pro's words. It was true. Kakens can burn people with explosions. His can cut them accidentally if he didn't control the warp, and critically injured people with the uncontrollable one for all. Uraraka's can send others floating and fall abruptly. Todoroki's could burn and freeze a person to death. Such a thing could be forgotten easily most of the time. That was what UA kept reminding them every time they were taught about quirks and its history. That is why in our society now quirks are strictly regulated. No public use of quirks and use it only in acts of self-defense. You all understand this, do you? Izuku nodded slowly in agreement. It was the first of the articles from Quirk regulation law. An individual can use quirks at home or in any private property. Any usage of quirks in public would be a violation of the law regardless if harmful or not. This was done so since anyone could potentially hurt, or in worst scenario, kill someone with their powers. Was it too tight? Yes, but it was a law needed to decrease chances of accidental injury, death, or vigilantism, which was all prevalent during the Dark Age. Your test with Aizawa showed the potential of your quirks. The combat training with All Might showed the dangers of using your power against others. The space suit-wearing hero took a moment to gaze at all of 1A, accentuating his point more. That is why there are hero school to help you control your quirk while reaching its full potential. That is why in this class you will all learn that dangerous as quirks may be, it is not only used for combating villains. They could also be used to save countless lives from many disasters. 13 bowed. Thank you for listening. Everyone cheered at the rescue hero's words. Izuku felt his chest stirred from the hero's speech. This was what he wanted to do since he and Kaken were young. To make his mom and dad proud by saving people. Bravo! Ida cheered on his right. Now Aizawa-sensei said, but his attention turned elsewhere when the light abruptly turned off. Is this another test? I wouldn't be surprised if Aizawa-sensei did all this for a little realism. Izuku prepared himself for the bomb dropping of their blunt pro-hero teacher. Gather together and move! The emotions expressed by the raven-haired teacher shocked him. He reeled in surprise at the intensity of his intimidating gaze. Midoriya, open a gate and be ready to transport everyone. What's happening? Wondered a confused Mineta. What's that? Ishido followed. From the fountain, reality distorted, and he would have observed what was happening had it not been for Aizawa-sensei calling his name. Midoriya! He was knocked out of his curiosity. You'll have time to analyze later, snapped his sensei. Do it now. Izuku, not one to disobey, prepared himself for opening such a large gate. The large portal had him grunting and breathing heavily in focus as he could feel the drain of his strength. The power he had was not enough to maintain this size of gate for long, but he had to do it nonetheless. 13 cover the students while Midoriya opens a gate. There on the fountain from the distance, the black wispy smoke became apparent. He could see people coming out of the smoke. What's that? Kirishima asked concernedly. Did the test already start? Stop! Izuku flinched at their teacher's tone. Those are villains. Hurry and create a warp gate. His heart sped, and his chest tightened like a coiling snake at the mention of villains. What were they doing here? Wasn't the USJ still in UA proper? It'll do no good to if he panicked, so he put that out of his thought and concentrated. His strength waned more as he focused on the warp every second. Everyone, move closer to Deku-kun. Listen fuckers, move to Deku. The smaller the portal, the better. His concentration wavered when he heard shuffling in the wind. He could feel his classmates shift uncomfortably all around him, but the portal sparked and swirled beneath them. The floor softened yet remained hard. Relax. It'll be over in a second. No, you don't. Someone shouted, but the wind grew stronger as something pulled them back. Black hole! Countered 13, and his quirk pulled them in the opposite direction before they finally sunk. Izuku felt the others sink through his gate. The sounds of battle faded as screeching sounds of chairs and tables abruptly moving echoed. His stomach churned, and fatigue slowly hit him, making the teen kneel out of breath. Opening his eyes, Kaken's worried look greeted him, and he found themselves in their room. I'm fine, he wheezed and struggled to say. Every word uttered felt heavy. Call the principal. We need to let them know of the situation. The bird-faced teen supported him along with his childhood friend as he made him sit. Ida's on his way. Rest for a while because I know they'll use you to transport them to USJ. The NKS, replied Izuku as he rested on a desk. He tried to listen to the quiet murmurs of his fellow hero trainees but found it difficult and missing a large part of the words. "Sensei? Will he write?" The voices mashed and didn't recognize the voice. A lot of murmur more. He really did try, but he failed to keep himself awake. "I'm pro." Izuku walked with Kaken to the park along with his two buddies. The boy hummed a tune he heard on the radio a while ago as they trek. It didn't surprise the kid to see the playground nearly empty except for a kid playing in the swing. A purple-haired kid who seemed to be enjoying playing alone. Few people go to this park, but he found it sad why a kid his age was alone. "Hey loser, get out. This place is ours now." Izuku frowned at Kaken's behavior. His friend had been a little, mean lately and he didn't know why. The swinging kid ignored their presence. Kaken growled, stomping towards the silent kid and abruptly pushing him out of the swing. The purple-haired kid landed roughly with a grunt that made Izuku wince. He felt something else inside of him. He didn't know what. "Oi, you deaf or something? Get out." The kid glared at them. "Stop this, Kaken." Izuku, shaking in fear, stood between his friend and the kid. "That's not nice." Katsuki's expression morphed between sneering and anger as small explosions came from his hands. "What you gonna do, Deku? Call your mommy?" "Yeah, we all know you're a chicken. Won't even show us your quirk. So get out of the way," said the plump-winged kid. Stomping his feet harder in protest, he screamed, "No, not until you stop this." He put on a brave face, but inside he was shaking stronger than any earthquake. What's this?" Katsuki said, raising a brow in disgust and raising a fist. "Deku, growing a bone? What do you say, guys? Shall we teach him a lesson?" His body shook, but he didn't move. Please stop this. This isn't nice." "What did I say, Deku?" Kaken moved slowly towards him. "What you gon' do about it?" Izuku closed his hand. A hero is someone who is always there to help. Just like his father. Like All Might. "Stop this." Before Izuku knew it, his fist landed on something soft and said something landed on the sand, followed by a shout. Upon opening his eyes, he was shocked. His fist forward. Feet spread wide apart and hand level on his waist like those people in movies do. "Stop this. It's not nice." Cowering before the glare, he still stood his ground. "What did you say, nerd? I do whatever I want. I am a hero material." "You can't do that. All Might is never that mean. He helps people." Katsuki's face looked at him wide-eyed, then back to glaring. "Why dash? Midoriya Izuku. Midoriya. Midoriya." Izuku woke up groaning, staring at a white-furred creature with a scar on its right eye and wearing clothes. "I still dreamin'," he said, blinking at the creature. "I'm afraid not, Midoriya-kun." The creature smiled at him. "It's me, Principal Nedzu." It took a second of blinking before he shouted and stand, only for his vision to blur, then lose his footing and fall. He screamed as he fell. Hard hands caught him, and when he opened his eyes, he stared at Kirishima's worried face. If it wasn't for Kirishima catching him, Izuku would be on the floor. He bowed to the creature before him. "Good afternoon, Principal Nedzu." "Good afternoon, 1A class representative." It would be a pleasant afternoon were it not for our current crisis. Their small principal stood on his desk, head held high and hands behind his back. A silent pride that knows he's in command. "We have no time for niceties, Midoriya," Vlad King said, approaching him. The hero's eyes said it all. There was urgency by his eyes alone. Following the hero was Cementos, Midnight, and Present Mike. Even the jovial voice hero looked at him seriously. "We know you're tired, but can you transport us to USJ? 13 and Eraserhead needs us. We need to show the villains who they're messing with." Midnight licked her lips slowly. "Where's All Might Sensei? Ectoplasm?" Momo asked, looking at their teachers. "Unavailable," was all Vlad said with finality. The teen swallowed hard. He was spent, but he could push himself go on if he to. He nodded slowly and turned facing a wall. Supported by Kirishima, he focused on the endpoint, imagining the entrance of USJ. The greenhead didn't let his fatigue stop him as he put his remaining energy on making the portal. Izuku looked back. Ida and Kirishima were the ones closest to him, and he trusted his new friends to catch him if he falls. All Might's successor leaned against the other teen as the human-sized warp appeared and swirled on the wall. Maintaining the warp made him grit his teeth with each breath getting heavier and heavier. I can't hold it long enough. Go, please. The teachers of UA didn't waste any time and ran. The moment all passed through, he released his hold of the warp and leaned on his friend while ignoring his aching body. Here, in his hazy vision, a blurry red and yellow-clothed person gave him something. He knew it was the vice-class rep from the voice alone. Izuku squinted to see what she was holding out to him. It's an energy drink, Midoriya, Momo said, as if predicting his thoughts. He thanked the girl and chugged the liquid faster than he'd like that he nearly choked. Katsuki returned and gave him food and more drinks, which he silently thanked him. Where's Ida-kun? His vision was slowly returning, and looking around he could see the others seated properly, some on the desk and others on the desk themselves. He went looking for other teachers. Do you guys think the teachers will be all right? Ishido asked, tone very lackluster. Thanking Kirishima for seating him, he calmed himself that he sent the others to their death and sharing the pink-haired girl's worry. Hey, don't worry guys, Hanta replied, his words so assured. Izuku wished he shared the teen's optimism. Aren't they pro-heroes? They handle these kinds of things all the time, right? Dumbass, Kakin interrupted the tape teen. You think that dash? Mineta raised a fist in protest and glaring at his friend. That was uncalled for, Bakugu. Zero has a point, you know. Guys, Kakin's right. What? How can you say that? Kaminari, seated on the chair behind him, complained. Just hear me out, okay? Breathing deeply, Izuku leaned back on his chair. His mind went to overdrive, speculating the hows and whys. The villain knew they were. How? His eyes widened in realization, the media incident. Aizawa-sensei said that the alarm was activated when the media trespassed on school grounds. Someone must have used the chaos to infiltrate the school. How? The quirk needed for such would be Deku. Katsuki interrupted, snapping his fingers in front of him. Focus. Fucking tell us already. Sorry, he muttered lowly, getting back on his original point. He could feel the eyes of each and everyone in the room on him. It's a well-known fact that UA has pros as part of their teaching staff. Even the news of All Might teaching is known now. So why would the villains openly attack without any form of advantage? He let his words sink in before continuing. There are two reasons I could think why. They are confident in their abilities or they have a plan. Even both. I'm willing to bet that they may have possibly sabotaged the security system in USJ. So, Momo said calmly, then sighing and crossing her arms. You're saying the villains came prepared then? I see your point. The teachers looked shocked as us. This means that they didn't know we are attacked. What weapon could they have that would make them so confident? Attacking a hero school is preposterous no matter what plan they have. Not to mention UA has All Might as one of its teachers. Their chances of succeeding in their assault are small considering all faculty members are pro-heroes. Tokoyami grunted. If it is as you say, then not only would the alert systems not alert the school, there would be many villains there. Aizawa-sensei, 13, and the others are at a severe disadvantage then. Izuku was getting to that, but he nodded at the shadow quirk teen. Do you think we should do something? Hagakure asked. Are you saying what I think you're saying? It's suicide. Their shortest classmate screamed, waving his arms. We're just students, what can we do? We should just call more heroes for help. Izuku shook his head. No, how about we scout what is happening and check out how the battle is going? Turning to the vice rep, he then said firmly, Momo, can you create a drone? It's small enough to create quickly, right? After that, we can decide what to do. Izuku hoped they were wrong, but his gut screamed at him. It just doesn't make sense that the villains would attack UA students and teachers in school grounds without some sort of plan or weapon strong enough to counter for anything that would derail their plan. All might or not, Izuku didn't know why, but he had this nasty feeling in his gut. Maybe he was just being too paranoid? The nearly naked girl didn't waste time as she turned, and from her came a drone with a camera and a projector. Do you that the range will reach it? It will. The girl cut off Ojiro. It will take too long to explain the specifics and we have no time, but yes, it will reach up to that range. Open a warp gate. Half a person's size. A Mineta-size gate. Gnashing his teeth as his strength, the space in front of him blurred and darkened. The drone rushed and Izuku let go immediately. Momo projected the image on the board. The drone came out on the USJ entrance and flew higher and zoomed in the battle in the fountain. Around the fountain were many unmoving bodies and some still standing or falling to the ground. More and more villains came from the other foe disaster areas. Inhaling automatically, the image had him losing his breath. The heroes were struggling. Two bulky-like creatures with bird-like head fought Vlad, Present Mike, Midnight and Cementos. The muscular men rushed faster than they could see. Vlad rushed towards one, meeting it head-on and dodging the punch, then trapping it with his blood. Present Mike screamed at the dark blue bird villain, but it remained on the spot as its body turned silver. Midnight dashed to it and attacked, but her CQC didn't do anything to it at all. Midnight jumped back and released pink gas from her body, making more enemies fall, but the muscular men still stood as if nothing happened. A collective sigh came from them. Only a dark, misty guy and a hand-covered person who stood by the fountain remained along with the two monsters fighting. They could do this. He prayed for their success. The relief turned to worry as electricity passed all around the villains, making them spasm for a second before their bodies moved slowly, indicating their wakefulness. The electricity undid Midnight's effort of decreasing the enemy numbers. The creatures roared as Cementos trapped the two in a block of cement. He was relieved their teachers got this, but not a moment later they freed themselves and sending debris flying everywhere. The cement hero then released a wave of cement, sent a wave of earth to the masses of villains coming for them, making them fly. But the two bird creatures handled it and withstood the attack. Just how strong are those two? Cementos attacked the two with his quirk as the other heroes retreated to where he was. His attacks were shrugged off easily as if the hero's quirk were nothing. How? Came the gasp of Hagakure. The weapon, a counter to the heroes. These heroes are trained, even a veteran in this job, yet two people can rival them? Shakily, Izuku stood, having had enough. They need to do something. Anything. They're losing, said the muscular Sato. Two impossible words to be found in together. Heroes and losing. How could the two monster-like men handle these veteran heroes so easily? Everyone, sorry for the wait. I brought more. Izuku turned to Ida, bursting to the door. Ingenium's younger brother froze, stopping at the image before him. What is that? Ida's voice wavered at the end of his words. Live image at the USJ Caro. Power Loader came rushing and stopping at the image too. Power Loader sensei, where are the others? Uraraka asked. The hero merely shook his head in negative. They'll be a little late. Villain attacks occurred throughout the city. Some of the teachers had to be deployed to help contain the attack. A bad timing or pre-planned. Either way, at this point, there is a chance that the teachers in USJ will be hurt. Power Loader sensei, allow me to come with you. Izuku bowed as he pleaded with the hero. He couldn't let the teachers suffer for them. If he could alleviate some of their burdens, he would. No, the short man replied sternly. This is no place for students. Now kindly transport me to them, young man. But sensei, the others will not last long if they keep fighting that too, and the villains from the other areas, reasoned the green-haired youth. And the other teachers will not be here on time if you're the only one here now. Allow me to support you. We are trained for this. We can handle this. He didn't want to involve the others in his selfish and impulsive decisions. Oi, Deku, Kaken called. A fist hitting a palm echoing followed. Don't forget us, fucking nerd. We're not about to let those villains go attacking our teacher. Our ticket to pro hero. He looked shocked as his vice rep, Momo, walked and did the same thing as him. Please, we know it is dangerous, but at this rate, they won't be able to handle that many villains while fighting the two large ones. We will support you by distracting the other villains while you confront the dangerous ones. No! Izuku whirled, voicing his objections. It's too dangerous. Isn't it the leader's job to keep those who trusted him safe? They trusted him, and he would not let themselves be hurt if he could help it. Izuku-chan. Azui stepped up and looked at him directly. We know what you're feeling, and we know it's dangerous, but no, you cannot do it alone. Like Aizawa-sensei said, trust in your comrades. The teen froze, realizing that Azui was right. Still, it was dangerous. Hypocrite. He thought, his mind betraying him. Fine, Power Loader sighed. You students are right, but only the underlings. Fight them to give your teachers some breathing room and nothing more. Leave those dangerous four to us. No stupid heroics. Got that? Yes, sir. If there ever was a time that one felt together in their 3 days of knowing each other, it was at this moment. That was why he stood strong despite his body's weariness. Izuku knelt when on the ground upon releasing the warp. He can't make more warp or his body will give up and faint. I'm fine, he said, holding out a hand to stop them as he slowly stood. Bakugu handed him an energy bar that he ate quickly. The Power Loader sensei was already gone when he looked around. Looking at Momo, they nodded at each other. As planned, Midoriya, Todoroki, Bakugu, Aoyama, and Kyuka will stay in the center to help the heroes. Ida, Sato, Ojiro, Hagakure, and Ishido will go to the fire. Mineta, Azui, Kaminari, Koda, and I will go the landslide while the last team will go for the storm. Did everybody get that? Ida said loudly. He was shaking like the rest of them, whether in fear, excitement, or possibly both, he didn't know. But they had no choice but to do this if they want to save the teachers. This is the pro-hero world, the teen thought as he shook where he stood. Everything was overwhelming him. Everybody. Izuku felt his shoulders grew heavy, looking into each of his classmates' eyes. Be careful. Todoroki, ice the floor. The floor turned glacial white in a span of seconds as far as their eyes can see. Everyone dispersed while the villains were still distracted. Kaken grabbed him and Aoyama. Jiru hopped on to his friend's back. They all held to him tightly, as his friend jumped from the top of the stairs and went blasting upwards. The wind blew against them as gravity pulled on their total heavy mass. Kaken! His blind friend ignored him as they kept falling. Kaken! He screamed again. His nerves were killing him. The teen trusted Katsuki, but he hates it when he does things like this. Monsieur, we are not slowing down. Kaken shouted, hands pointing to the pavement, letting off a huge blast that greatly reducing their falling speed. Izuku grunted as he rolled on the pavement. An unknown face loomed before him, making the teen scream in fright. Cover your ears and hold your ground. The teen did so. His ears thrummed in pain from the screech that he knew came from Present Mike, but not before sending the villains away with flurries of kick and punches. Roughly pulling him up and pushing him backward, he fell on his rear. Izuku retreated to where the other teachers and principal were. Their backs were covered by the stairs. The icy layered ground from before was blown away. On the edges of his vision, midnight distracted the monstrous villain. What are you doing back here? Aizawa-sensei demanded while glaring at him. Their sensei managed to keep his cold look despite his injured state. Izuku avoided looking at the arms bleeding profusely circling the erasure hero in a literal heap of a bloody mess and briefly turned to 13, whose suit has been ripped violently from the back. I told you to take them to safety, Midoriya. Izuku shook his head. I'm sorry, sensei. He muttered loud enough for Eraserhead to hear. His hand still shook, but he clenched and opened it slowly. But we can't, knowing that you guys needed help. All heroes will be late responding, 'cause they're responding to an attack on the city. I dare say that attack is most likely planned by the villains, Principal Nedzu stated calmly. Why was their principal so calm about this? He didn't look worried at all. Izuku dashed forward and dodging the melee between the two muscular men and the team of Lad King and Midnight, running towards the gathered villains where ice and explosion threw some away. He kicked one on the shins making him fall. He followed it with a one-for-all powered punch. The teen sidestepped as a spiked arm nearly hit him. No chance for any other movements as he found himself surrounded. He focused on one-for-all on his fingers. He breathed harshly as he then flicked the two fingers on opposing directions, sending the thugs away. Fuck! He broke his other finger. His chest burned from its lack of air, and every movement he did served to only exhaust him more. Izuku jumped aside as a hair-whipped hit where he was seconds ago. He rolled right, as a bulky man dashed madly towards him. His right forefinger nerves hurt as he clenched his hands and pouring the legacy given to him. Non, monsieur. You shall not erase his twinkling light. Boy, was he relieved when light blue laser intercepted him in time. The naval laser then did a wide arc left hitting a lot of villains. Cover your ears, Midoriya. Kyukajiru ran towards him and stood still. Shrill sound once again invaded his hearing. The girl ran and quickly propped him up as his savior pulled him towards the naval laser user. Are you okay, Midoriya? Izuku nodded tersely. He didn't know if he could last long because even if it was to make a simple sound was tiring enough. His body cried in protest in its need for energy. His knees quivered. His finger lit up with pain. Still plus ultra. He roared. Many villains came to them, but Aoyama's laser drove them back. His classmates' sound waves drove the crowd as they flew away or covered their ears. Seeing an opportunity, the green-headed teen attacked. Smash! He screamed, punching the air and sending more of their opponents back. The teen hissed. That nearly destroyed his arm. His freaking arm hurt. Scratch that, his hand beat painfully. He could do nothing but grit his teeth. Ah! The blonde grunted. My navel! He gnashed his teeth in pain. That attack nearly destroyed his arm, and still, the villains kept getting back up and were surrounding them. They needed to regroup. Izuku moved closer to his fellow heroes in training. They're encircling us, muttered their raven-haired female classmate. He was near her to notice her shaking. All three of them were. The villains grinned and smirked at them, assured in their victory against high school kids. This is the life of a hero. He formed a fist and winced from the pain coming from the right one. Endless fighting for stability and peace. Aoyama, Kyuka. Izuku held his injured arm. Let's regroup with Kaken and Todoroki. Ahead of them, the continuous blast sent villains flying and further left while simultaneously villains froze and stopped as ice headed towards the masses of thugs. On a count of 3, all of us attack and run towards them. Looking at his classmate, he nodded discreetly at them and ran to his target, who did not expect him to rush. He jumped and punching his target, and before screaming, Kyuka, Aoyama, now! The sound blasting distracted their foes and lasers hitting made them cry in pain. Looking back, the two followed him to the two powerhouses of their class. Those fucks will pay. Get M. His winded lungs can't take any more running. Still plus ultra. His mind roared. This was to be their duty. To be the shield against those who threaten others. Crap. They have someone fast with them. The villains were quick on their pace. Even as they had head start, they're still catching up. Look out! Cried Izuku. Someone wielding a weapon caught with his two classmates first. Quickly as he can, the teen turned and channeling the power into his legs. The offender's shock face was evident up close as Izuku screamed, Smash! He huffed and then winced as his whole arm became stiff and painful. Go on, he managed to say with gritted teeth as he fell to his knees. Are you okay? Damn it! The teen grinded his teeth. They're still coming towards us. Worry about yourself, idiot. Aoyama, ordered the sound Quirk teen. Izuku protested, but Kyuka would have none of it as she stubbornly supported him. Cover me. Don't let them near us. Kyuka's sound helped in deterring the attackers. Seeing as they were distracted, the three of them ran. He could only hesitantly accept the help as three of them retreat to the stairs fast as they could, away from where the action villains and far behind the protection of the heroes. Fortunately, their enemies didn't follow them. From their vantage point, everything was chaotic. Villains lumped together attacked the ice and explosion on the left. On the fountain, dust rose continuously as the three pro-hero teachers fought the muscleman while the misty villain and the one with many hands on his body only watched. He could see Power Loader fighting villains far on the other side, in between the mountain and fire where numerous villains lay. The hero kept them at bay with ease as no villain passed by him and into Midnight, Present Mike, and Cementos battle. "Midnight," called Present Mike, his voice reaching them as he looked at her. The hero jumped back from the swipe of the silver muscleman. Izuku gaped when the R-rated hero was sent flying to a tree. The skills of these two villains were staggering. Freeing himself from Kyukajairu, he faltered on his own but stood back up again. "Midoriya, stop being stubborn before you hurt yourself more." Kyuka went to support him once more. "Grip stronger this time." Aoyama seconded. "Too much dazzling may hurt your eyes." "His arm hurts too much, but he must press on." "Let us handle this, monsieur." His protest died in his mouth when only grunting came from him. His classmate positioned himself before him and fired lasers at the villain. As getting blurry and struggling to see, someone screamed something, but his heart leaped when the dazzling laser of Aoyama reflected from the villain's now silver skin.